Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show where we go beyond the meat. I'm your host, Harris, aka Monoxide, and I do this alongside my co-host, Dan, also known as Gunna Garage. Today, we are having somebody who's a little bit more familiar with the RX7 Rotary platforms, RX8 especially, and quite a bit familiar with the Miata platforms. A little bit different than some of the variety we've seen on the show, but as you know, we like to get a little bit of everyone, so I think it's about time that we get a little bit more familiar with these. Let's get right to it. But the main things you kind of work on nowadays is like Rotaries and what was it, Miatas I saw? Or
Mostly Miatas.
Mostly Miatas?
Yeah, that's my focus right now. I've been in that platform for a long time, so
okay,
and that's basically what I do. I mean, my background's so broad, so like I could do other stuff, but I just like the Miata crowd.
Yeah,
it's very diverse. I mean, what can't you do with the Miata?
I know that's kind of what we begin into, but let's you want to hit the thing and we'll start talking.
Oh, we're
Miatas.
going. I'm just gonna do it. I'm superimpose an intro later. That's a later problem.
Okay,
it's just going so chill. Like that's like one of the things I like about like other podcasts. They just kind of get into it. They kind of skip the intro. But regardless, so you with Miatas, you never know what you're gonna get. You can get Stancy boys or full blown race cars.
Yeah,
right.
That's basically how it goes. And I like that. I like helping out everybody that is willing to just do something with their car. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, sure, stance boy, sure. Want to put in the exhaust, sure, or whatever, or turbo. They have so many different ideas for their cars and what the purpose of the car build is. So I like that. And it's like I said, it's very broad. So it actually keeps me pretty busy. And there's other shops too that focuses on that locally, mm-hmm. which there's plenty of jobs for everyone, man. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
what are they running the MX5s for, like a motor?
So from 90 to 93 was a 1.6 4-cylinder. And then after that, from 94 to 97, they ran a 1.8. That one's called the BPO5, which is okay flowing head. 1.6 is like not so good mm-hmm. flowing head. And then 99 to 2000, they did what's called a BP4W, which is a re-enhanced cylinder head with better intake port angle. Mm-hmm. And then
what years was that again?
99 to 2000. Very short.
Gotcha.
Lived.
Okay.
And they had 9.5 to 1 compression.
Okay.
Instead of the 9 previously. And then VVTi motor, which is 2001 to 2005, I believe. Unless you have a Mazda speed, because they went back to BP4W. But that one's a VVTi motor with a little bit higher compression. So that one's a 10 to 1. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay.
So which one's the one to have out of all those?
99 2000.
99 really? 2000?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want the VVT. A lot of people think that will, help you in the long run, but it's actually, slows you down because now you can't fit bigger cams. Mm-hmm. So
just get this adjusted a little bit higher, by the way.
Well.
You're just leaning up. It might be going limp on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could if you see where like that little thing right there. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
We don't have a
watch,
staff
by the way. I like the color.
Oh, yeah. I'm a watch guy, so gotta have a nice watch, once in a while.
Okay.
This is my clothes. Like I don't really get to wear nice stuff because most of the time I'm at the shop.
Yeah.
Well, that's what everybody tells me. Like whenever I do like merch or anything, people are like, just do black.
Yeah.
Like I did like the whitish, like off-white kind of hoodie, and everybody's like, why? And I'm like, I want it.
I mean, it looks cool, like when you're not working on cars.
Right, exactly. So then, okay, so like if you had to guess, like how many, like, because you have diverse clients, right? So you have the Stancy boy and a race car and just go fast guys. What would you say the distribution is of that? Like, is it more show car kind of guys that just want a little kick, or?
Well, lately it's been more of like the fast guys. I feel like people have caught up finally in Minnesota to like, hey, Miata's actually pretty quick and it can be fast. All the internet myths are finally going away.
What are the internet myths?
250 horsepower, guys, man. Like apparently that's the limit. All the a lot of that came from autocross and road course guys saying that on the stock motor. And I agree up to a certain point for the fact that you are beating the car more than 10 seconds or 13 seconds in a quarter mile or something. So yeah, it does fatigue the motor faster, but there's ways around it. So and it all comes down to the tuner. So but yeah, like for example on a 1.6, I do have a customer making 280 horse and 263 foot-pounds. like a 19 pound to boost. And then just recently, he asked me to turn it up. So it went to 22 pounds, and it's been sitting like that since the spring, or earlier this summer, which that's probably making like 300 wheel. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, if you have a 1.8, you can make 300 wheel, or a 1.6 even.
What's he doing with the car? Is he autocrossing, anything, just driving around the street? And
Yeah, he's just doing pulls.
Okay.
So yeah, he's a street guy.
Okay.
So it's a fun car. Like,
Is there anybody doing draggy hits with Miatas?
so nobody is, and that's why I'm getting one.
Yeah.
Because I want to get a list. I think it'll be fun, just for the local guys. And I mean,
Right.
it can go nationwide or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think that will. Okay, so right now there's a limit for Miatas, right? Everybody can make good power, but nobody can put it down. And the reason is because there isn't that many great options for transmissions out there. So there is, but then you end up, putting a used BMW transmission that's been beat, So you can do that, or you can do a TKX, which is what I've done for one of my customers, but it's not easy, I'll tell you that, and it's a lot of money. So I'm trying to figure out something right now where we can get a good drivetrain for our customers, and that way, we can make up to whatever you want, 4 digits if you want, out of a 1.8.
What are those? I guess it depends on the year, right? But so I guess you said your favorite's like the 99 2000, right? But like what years are you mostly working on? Is like the more recent ones, like within the last like 5-10 years, or just all over the place?
It's all over the
Really?
place. Yeah. I mean, I worked from like a brand new one with like a supercharger kit on it and everything, and wheels and suspension, to like just a stock, 100% stock car, which I tend not to take those customers because I'm not really their type of shop. Because I'll be like, hey, don't you want to like do some suspension work or something? Like all your bushings are shot. But those guys are more of a cruiser. They just want to like relax and take a car on the weekend up north or
Right.
something, which is totally fine. The Miata, like I said, the Miata can do anything.
It is. It used to be kind of like a make fun of a Miata guy, kind of, right? But as I'm spending more time on the track and I'm seeing more of these cars, all this stuff. So we just had. Well, you said you listened to Jay's episode.
Yeah.
He literally picked that as his track car, and I've been kind of getting the itch. I've been thinking about it, because if you really want to go out there and have fun and just beat the shit out of something, like that seems like the perfect candidate to.
Yeah. And you can.
Yeah.
Like there's, like when I tell the customers first, when they come to me, they always ask me, oh, I want to make like 300 horse. I'm like, yeah, but what's your purpose? You know what I mean?
Right.
So like that's kind of how we gauge like what route we take on the build. But most of the time, guys just want to go on the road course. Like DCTC, it's a great track for Miata guys, because it's very short and technical, and there's elevation changes. There's different types of concrete or asphalt out there, so it really tests you all your skill, and you can get pretty good. I mean, there's some guys out there that are really fast with just a stock engine Miata, like nothing done to it, and just tires and suspension and brakes, and they're really fast, like really fast.
Really?
Yeah. So like I said, the Miata, you get into Miata to be a better driver if you want to challenge yourself.
Well, it's a momentum car, right?
Yes.
Like you got to be able to keep the momentum. Like I always talk about this, like when we do, again, you do it in real life. I do more iRacing at the moment because I don't want to break shit. It's a lot cheaper. But it's like, you can make up for the time lost if you are in a faster car, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're racing like head to head or whatever. But a Miata, it's like you blip that throttle, like not throttle, the brake 10% too much, you pay for it big time.
Yeah.
You can't get that speed back.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when somebody approaches you to build something, right? What's the to-do list to, let's say, autocross, right? Or I guess, are you setting up autocross and road course fairly similar, or is there big differences?
There's big differences on them.
Okay.
It depends if we're going forced induction or all motor. But yeah, that's basically where we start. But most of the time, I try and get the maintenance down. Like oil pressure is a big issue. These motors do not make oil pressure where it should be at for the track. And a lot of people put the stock oil weight, which is controversial. I use a 2050 VR1 oil in it to bring that oil,
You good?
the oil pressure up. where it should be, because rule of thumb is 10 psi per 1,000 RPMs. So if you're at 7,000 and your oil pressure is only at 55, 60, which is usually where they're at, you're possibly can damage the engine. Plus, could be oil starvation on turns and stuff like that. So usually I address that first if we can. And while we're in there, we go, hey, do you want to upgrade some internals like head studs? It would be a good start. And oil pump gears, they were known for shattering during race events. So
this Mustang guy can talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, how long is the Ford Mazda partnership, or is that still going on? There was like a thing. So I've been looking at Ford probes even lately. How much of that motor is Mazda? That is 100% Mazda, weren't they, underneath? Or I don't know if you know much about the probes.
I actually just started messing with those motors.
Really?
I have an MX3 with the KLG4, which is a 626 motor.
Okay.
And a solid lifter. But yeah, it's basically a 2.5 KL motor.
Okay.
But I don't know that much history about it. I know that it was a collab with Ford.
Yeah. Everybody had their thing. Like Dodge had their thing with Mitsubishi. It was like they saw the Japan market coming in, and they were like, "Oh, we better do something to partner up here." So
they did a great job. I think that partnership became part of a race program with a front wheel drive, some sort of Ford out in like Australia and out there that they were doing some serious racing. So that motor end up being in that race car, and then I think that's how the development came about.
Okay.
So, but there's so many variants of that motor, and it sounds great. It's a great motor, by the way, if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just it's very, very fragile motors. That's what I say about these cars. They're very fragile. You just have to know what you're doing.
Okay.
To get it right, and once you get it right, they'll go forever.
That seems to be a reoccurring theme, by the way, with anything like Mazda related. Well, it's a great motor if you do it right. And that's something that we kind of hear all the time.
Yep.
Because everybody's like, oh, as long as you keep up on your maintenance, or if you do this, 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 and this. Is that pretty accurate then?
Yeah. Yes. It's not a German engineered car. Let's be honest. They're not. Their tolerances are not very tight,
those get worked on plenty too. So, it's is there any one absolutely perfect automaker out there? Probably not.
No.
But
some people get lucky.
Yeah.
So
well, you worked on a variety of things over the years too, then, right?
Yes.
Like if you had to list off a handful of things, what would it be? Like things that you were kind of known for at any given time.
Vipers for sure. Gallardos. I worked on a few of those. Twin turbo ones. I've worked for German cars too. I really like Mercedes. That's like my go-to brand if I had a daily.
Okay.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. I've even got lucky enough to work on a 4GT build and a Selena 7 build, which...
Oh, wow.
Is
that the one that was around here a handful of years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not in Minnesota anymore, is it? I don't know. Some of these cars get hidden. There's a number of warehouses within a several 100-mile range where it's just like, you wouldn't believe it's in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. Minnesota actually has a lot of car people. They're just very, very secluded on their stuff. They just don't want to, share it sometimes when it comes to collections.
Car guys like that, right? So I have a friend of mine who's got a lot of cool shit, but he doesn't want anybody to know that he's got all this stuff. And then there's the guys that want everybody to know they got all this cool shit.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's it's kind of weird. I don't really understand that other side. Like, why would you want to have all this stuff in secret just for you to stare at, I guess? But
well, it's a mix, right? Like, especially with social media. Like, so many of up and coming guys are like, oh yeah, like just flashy, cloudy, all that sort of stuff. Whereas some like old money, for example, if somebody's got, a 9-digit bank account, they don't want people knowing that. Yeah. So it really depends. But
it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You got your circle, and then that's who you actually show it to. But other than that,
Okay.
So how did you eventually settle? Because now you're in your own shop, right? You said before we started that you were kind of, going from shop to shop, just, kind of finding your place, right? What made you decide to go out on your own finally? Or has it always been side work?
No. It's, I had my hobby shop for like 4 years already. And I kept moving around, and I was like, well, not really finding happiness like in certain shops. So, and I'm a guy that works really well on my own, like when it comes to cars, but very well in teams when we have to do something in teams. So, but most of the time, if I have to work on a car, like I just rather not have anybody like bother me and just kind of focus on that. So I think that's kind of where my idea come from. I was like, I think it's time. You get a good feeling about it, and you just do it. So actually, I should add this to it. Before I started my shop, I actually took a trip to Italy and visited Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Pagani, which Pagani was like holy grail for me. And just visiting that shop was like, all right, I should be doing something for my own. Like it was very inspiring. So
Visiting Pagani?
yes, yeah. So that and Ferrari too. Ferrari took a big, like, very, Modena, very Italian. Like the Italian me was like, oh yeah, I gotta show my art, or like my capabilities of doing great work. But I think that was a major effect to be like, yeah, just wing it, man.
What was it about the Pagani like experience that was just awesome? Is it the attention to detail? That's probably the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically art on wheels, like everybody says, Horacio Pagani was born in Argentina and was, Italian descent, which I'm from Venezuela with Italian descent. So for me to just kind of see eye to eye on things and being like, you have to take pride in like where you come from, you know what I mean?
Right.
So like, I was like, oh, that's pretty inspiring. Just the whole story and how he carried the company. He wasn't like, oh, we're gonna make like a bunch of these right away. He started pretty small, which now they actually do make quite a bit of them. Which there's nothing wrong with that as long as you stay true to your brand. So I think that's how I can relate.
Well, for me, it's like right now I'm having a ton of pride with like Rimac, right?
Yeah.
Because, the guy, it's weird because like, depends on who's your mother and your dad, blah, blah, blah. But the guy's Bosnian, right?
Yep.
And I'm Bosnian. And it's like, all right, so we just had the fastest car in the world just a minute ago, which by the way, we invented the Predator drone. I need you to know that.
Okay.
Just watch what you say, Dan.
Perfect.
But it's like there's something to be said about that, a little bit of pride. But it's kind of cool, the whole story from Pagani leaving Lamborghini and just...
Yeah, that too. Yeah. I mean, Lamborghini is a great company, but, sometimes you can only do so much when you're not in control of your own destiny. So it's better just get a hold of that and just do it yourself.
Before we get too far into the show, I wanted to take a moment to talk about Razorhood. If your daily driver is having issues, aka your beater you got off Craigslist, Razorhood's telemechanics and AI tools can help you diagnose and solve the issues you may be dealing with for a fraction of the cost. All you have to do is add your car to the Razorhood garage to get started. You can provide the AI tool, also known as Gus, with the specifics of the issues you're having, and it'll help you narrow down what the culprit is. It's a great way to bounce ideas off of to figure out what actually might be the problem. You could then select from a variety of solutions to explore the cost and difficulty of doing the repair yourself versus taking it to a shop. If your car doesn't have detailed solutions yet, that's totally fine. Just go ahead and add your car to the garage for free, and that'll let the Razorhood team know what to focus on as they continue to develop and grow. If you want to try out Gus or chat with a telemechanic, go to razorhood.com and add your car to the garage to get started. Use code MONOXIDE-FREE for a 1-month free subscription or Monoxide20 to save 20% on a 30-minute call with a telemechanic. Let's get back to the show. Longtime listeners of the show know that I don't like to peddle BS. Whether it's my own merch or the people I represent, I want to make sure that my listeners are getting the best quality stuff. That said, we had the Lunatech team on a podcast on episode 57, and they talked about their awesome detailing products. My personal favorite's Aquabead, just because it really makes it easy to not have to clean my car again. But I also enjoy Skeeter Deleter and Lemon Tech because I got a lot of brake dust from riding people's asses and having to slam on my brake. Don't worry about it, okay? That said, you want to use code Monoxide, save 15%. Give it a shot. I promise you won't be disappointed.
Well, that's spawned off of all kinds of companies have spawned off that way from not seeing eye to eye. I mean, even Lamborghini itself was like he was just trying to give notes to Ferrari, and Ferrari told him to fuck off. So he was like,
it happens a lot.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So it's like, it must be a thing over there. They just all have a lot of ego, I guess, going on over there.
I mean, the car industry,
Yeah.
Well, the same
gonna
thing,
look
right?
like that.
Yeah, it's like we see this all the time, especially even locally. Like you see guys that just, they work for a big name shop and eventually they just go out on their own, right? I think it depends. Like some guys like the stability, some guys are like, well, I like to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like where you ended up where you're at. It's just like, well, I feel ready now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So obviously we talked a little bit about the Miata and we'll probably come back to that just because just everything about that whole segment is just awesome. But and then we talked a little bit about rotaries before we started. So are those kind of like the two main things you're working on then mostly, or what else are people coming to you for?
Basically, if they don't have a shop, like a home shop, they end up in my shop. Like if they're like, oh, they're not willing to work on this, will you work on it? I'll be like, have you tried this place? And they'll be like, yeah, I did. I'll be like, all right, fine, I'll take you in. It's a one-man shop. So like right now I'm booked out till October, which is a good thing.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, but also like I'm trying to do like little projects for people. Like I do a lot of tuning for these Miatas, so they'll be like, of course, people be like last minute, be like, hey, this Friday, can you tune my car? I'm like, bro, like, I have 5 people that just message me the same thing. It's like,
I don't know what it is about this industry because I hang out in these shops. I know these people. I'm 42 years old. Like I should know better, and I still do that shit. I'm like, you knew that you needed to do this for months now, and now you're reaching out to people, being like, "Hey, I have an event next weekend. Is there any way you can help me out here?"
And most of the time I do because I don't have a schedule. I'm basically working every day.
Yeah,
you kind of have to until you're have people working for you or you have a team.
Is that the plan, by the way, to eventually have people working for you?
Man, I'm so picky. Like it was just,
it's tough.
That's my problem too.
I started thinking about that stuff before I even opened the shop because I'm like, I will have to know somebody for like at least 5 years. Usually the 5-year mark is where you know somebody pretty well. So I'm like, man, who would it be? So I have a couple people, but mainly it's the money. I would like to pay them very well. That way, they're taken care of. They can have their vacation time. They can grow in their own ways in life without having them to do what I did and be like, I'm just going to open my own shop. Like to have somebody, you have to pay them well. So that's kind of like my drawback. I'm like, I need a lot more money.
Yeah. There's like a gray area there in a business where you're like, okay, I need to take this next step, but obviously I got to cut myself way back in order to take care of this person to get it to the next level. It's my business has been in that area for the last couple of years. And it's like I don't know what to do, but I'm a very much micromanage kind of person, so it's hard for me to give up any kind of trust to somebody to not screw something up.
And there's a lot of stuff that I do that a lot of people are not aware of. Like I said, Miata guys are like, oh, 250, and here I am making like 300 plus on stock engines,
which is crazy, by the way, for that car, because it weighs next to nothing. What do they weigh? I guess depends on generation.
2,000 to 2,500 pounds,
which is that would put bus lengths on my car. Like my GTI, which weighs low 3,000s. I'm making 340 to the wheels. A Miata would put a bus length on me. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, we've taken cars off the dyno and line up to like a vet or like a supercharged G37, then we just gap, and it's on stock motor.
Well, if you think power to weight, like the GT500 is 760, but twice the weight. So if you cut that in half, power to weight ratio is like right on par with basically high end cars nowadays.
Yeah.
So
you just have to have the driver mod.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of people like changing out like different gear ratios and all this stuff too, depending on their? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a customer with like it's like a really like short. I mean, I think he tops out at like 125 and it's a 6-speed.
Oh, wow.
So like we're changing that obviously for a lower gear for him because he wants to do more drag racing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is there a big drag racing scene with Miatas?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. There is actually a guy down in Orlando right now. His name is Carlos Rivera. He's from Magma Tuning. That dude's a genius. Like, you think I know BPs? That dude's a BP king. And he's actually building a really nasty drag Miata right now. He's more of a drag scene guy. That's what his customers are.
And he's not swapping it. He's using the
Nope.
Mazda stuff. Because I've seen people do that stuff, but then they put an LS or something in it.
We're not a swap shop.
Okay, all right.
We stay true to what the car is.
Yeah.
Like, swaps are for people that, they can't figure it out.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I like to just keep it how they come. It's a little bit more challenging, but at the end you get a better result. You see a bunch of swap cars for sale right away after being built. What's the reason?
Well, they come with their own issues too, right?
Yeah,
That's not
money.
always. Yeah, right.
Gotta pay the credit card.
Yeah.
It gets expensive. Like, a lot of people don't understand that. Which, if you have the money, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But Miata's supposed to be a budget build, so why swap it and spend 10 grand just on a swap?
Right.
Just to be at the same power level if you would just gone turbo. So it's really hard to tell that to people because they don't understand that concept based on what they see on YouTube and social media. So,
But like, how fast are those drag Miata? Like a king shit drag Miata? Like, what are they running in a quarter, or is that 1/8 mile?
no,
Sort of deal?
it's a quarter.
It's a quarter.
Yeah, Carlos just got beat, which is why I think he's going back at and get his record back. He did 7.8 in a Toyota Starlet out of a trailer. I don't think it was dialed in very well. He got like maybe 3 hits, I think. I'm not sure, but the car wrecked at the top of the track.
Oh, geez.
But then,
Well, 7-second Miata. I'm sure it's probably a
oh,
little.
it's a Toyota Starlet,
Oh, okay.
but
Okay.
Miata motor.
Oh, okay.
And then not too long ago, which was 3 years later, this guy out west beat his record. I think it's like a 7.6, I want to say, or 7.7.
And that's
I
in the
can-
same Toyota.
Nope, that one's a Miata.
That one's a Miata.
Yep.
So 7.6 in a Miata.
Yep.
And that's
Wow.
But that one's a 2-liter stroker,
okay.
where Carlos was doing a 1.8.
Jeez, that's crazy. So, okay, so I know some guys do like KA swaps in Miatas. How does the motor
swaps.
compare? Or K swap, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, it's gonna be one of those days. But where the hell did I get KA from?
240s.
Okay,
I'm building one. So.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, that makes sense. But okay, so how does it compare to like a K swap?
I'll say K-subs are like, man, anybody can build those things. There's so many supportive shop, which is great. Like, you can make 1,500 horse out of one of those, like, no problem. I mean, they're making up to 2,000 horse. Let's be honest, which is nuts.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
if you
crazy.
put a 6-figure check into it too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, those cars is 6-figure plus.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it all depends, like, what your niche is. If you just want to stay true to the brand, or if you just want to make it an S2000. There's nothing wrong with doing swaps. Like I said, it's just
Different.
different.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just like which again goes back to use case. Like, what are you going to use it for?
yeah, exactly. And the only advantage I see doing a K swap on the Miata is if you're doing an all motor class and you can't
Yeah.
figure out how to make 230 out of a BP, which you can, but obviously costs money. You'll have to do a stroker kit, which puts you at 2.1 liters, and then you have to do head work, valve job, all that stuff, cams. It gets really expensive building NA, and then you have to find a tuner that can actually tune it right, because then it'll have to be alpha N if you're doing ITBs. What fuel are you using? Are you using methanol? Are you using pump E85? So a lot of variants, but which you can do that on a K swap Miata easily with the stock ECU.
Oh yeah.
Just
Just a quick Google.
yeah,
There's just so much
230,
support for that platform.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there is.
compared to 100%.
So same with LS ones, by the way. Like, you can just
Yeah.
drop a LS in there and it'll be moving. Like, that's a no brainer.
Do people do coyotes? 'Cause-
Yes, there is a
yes.
Coyote swap one.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
If you can think of a swap, it has been done.
Okay.
Yeah, most likely. I think the best one, if you're going to do a swap, it's a rotary swap, which is actually the fastest Miata in the quarter. Is actually a rotary swap one.
Okay.
Really?
Yep,
What's it running?
I have no idea.
If you had to guess.
It's 6.4.
Jeez. So it's into sixes?
No, 7.4.
No.
It is in the sixes, actually. I think it's the 6.8. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
Or 6.
crazy.
I have to check.
It's okay.
Check that.
Yeah.
It's super fast. It's like, yeah.
It's way faster than it ever was designed to be.
It's weird because you got, well, not until recently, but like all the V8s, like swap ones, were like not even on the top 3. They're all like all Mazda and then the Rotary.
Well, you take what was, I'm assuming you add quite a bit of weight that way by putting a big ass V8 in the front end of those things.
Yeah.
You probably change the dynamics of the car completely.
Yeah. So what people don't understand is that you're fighting torque.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to set up your car very, very well in order to take that initial torque hit. Where you have a Rotary, which makes no torque. And now you can actually put a lot of power without sacrificing traction.
Well, twisting the car in half.
Yeah, that's
That too.
So to manage all that torque, when you do those swaps, what goes into that then? Because that I can't even imagine the amount of work you have to do to make it functional.
I mean, most of the time those guys are doing like a 8.8 rear end of some sort, or a solid diff, like a 4-link or whatever. Yeah, they're doing a solid like rear diff, and just making it very old school, and just kind of like, all right, we're just gonna dial it in like the big Fox body cars, or basically the same concept, just now in the Miata shell. So it's not. There is one guy, I think it's still an IRS rear end, but most of the guys just go to solid, and it becomes just not a Miata.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, drag is you can't tell people that drag racing a Miata will be a Miata, because Miata is just meant for corners, right? And just having fun. But everybody has their own niche.
Well, then that's what intrigues me most about them, is I want something that I can just like, I'm zipping around corners, doing all this stuff. That's what seems most fun to me. If I wanted to go fast in a straight line, I would build a Fox or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
That is kind of the go-to, isn't it?
yeah, no, they are.
It's
they're
proven.
Yeah, they were kind of just set up right out of the box to go in a straight line really fast.
What about the Miata from Power Cruise?
Yeah, that's got an LS with 2 big turbos sticking out of the hood.
Wow.
It's
He's Minnesota based. I think it said like 8 seconds or whatever on his plate or something
oh
ridiculous.
no, it's power to weight.
Power to weight.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
It has like these crazy like slicks on the back, and just, I mean, that thing was ridiculous. It's a white one. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Yeah.
I know that car for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, from when we used to go street racing.
Oh yeah.
So it's come a long ways. Surprised he went V8, because he had the 4-cylinder for a long time, and it was quick.
Yeah,
But I think it had a lot more in it. A lot of Miata guys, when they start drag racing, they like go down the slope of like, oh, I can't figure out the 4-cylinder, and then they just give up and then just go LS, because it's a lot cheaper in your pocket
yeah.
to mess up a LS than to mess up actually a Miata motor, because dude, those things are expensive now. You're not getting into a Miata motor in less than like a $1,600 for a complete one, and it needs work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
what's it take? Let's say I just bought 2000 Miata and I bring it to you, and I don't want to go in and I don't want to stroke it. I don't want to do all that stuff.
Yeah,
what
you don't
gets
have to.
me?
Yeah.
What gets me the most power for the most money?
turbo kit.
Turbo kit?
Yeah.
Are we doing cams and things then at that point too? Or no?
So, fun fact: those BP4W cams. Again, Carlos down in Orlando has made 850 on those stock cams.
Holy shit!
So like when people, it's funny because a lot of customers will come to me and be like, "I want to do cams." I'm like, "What motor you have?" BP4W. I'm like, "Why?" Again, this is where conflict of internet comes in.
Yeah.
And my experience and other tuners' experience, trying to explain that to people, it's very hard. So, to be honest, on a car that you just want to take to the track,
Yep.
and like just be fast, I'll just be like, get some really good tires, some lightweight wheels, and suspension and brakes. Leave everything stock. Once you get good and consistent in each lap with that setup, we can go up in power. But until then, you don't need more power.
So otherwise, then we're talking turbo kit, injectors, fuel pump, maybe.
If you want to go all that, I would do
Okay.
cooling mods. That's like a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I have one customer that's a BMW instructor or used to. Well, he had it and then he sold it to his buddy, but the same car. That thing made 275 and 272 foot-pounds. Very linear power band. And I mean, he went out with the BMW guys out there and they were like, what is done to that thing? And it's just a stock motor.
Yep.
With like a Garrett GT 2560R, which is pretty small turbo. And yeah, we just send it like on E85 and it's been living for 3-4 years.
I was just going to say, so then they'll live a decent life. That's not one of these things where like you go out race for a season, then it's over with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it lived for quite a while. Obviously, it has quality stuff on there, so it's going to last. You know, you get guys with like the CX Racing turbo kits, which I get a lot. Nothing wrong with them. They just, you know, manifolds crack, and obviously they want like flame tune, and I'm like, all right, cool. I actually like, you know, decel. You get some flames. Yeah, it's kind of exciting, you know, but it does take the wear and tear on like all the components, you know. So kind of have to be mindful of that.
Yeah. Same
on the motor too. Like you start burning out exhaust valves and dropping valves. You know, stock valve springs are not meant to bounce off the rev limiter.
No, probably
like that.
not.
So,
what do those rev up to anyway? Like stock?
Stock is 7.
7?
Yeah.
Is that across all the generations roughly?
Yep.
Or okay.
Yeah, but you know, if you're an autocrosser guy, you're pushing that in order to get that little longer gear. Some guys will rev it to 75, just fine, but then you start again wear and tear on the valve train. Mm-hmm. But if you do things right, you can do 8,500. You know, with a good head work.
Oil pump gears probably too right out the gate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
they don't like rev limiters very much.
No. I think the most you can rev out of those motors 95.
Okay.
Anything after that, your head is the limit. Your head flow, which those heads are not anywhere close to be comparable to like a K series head.
Yeah,
they're just like old technology. You know, no lift, nothing fancy like that.
Yeah.
So kind of have to work with what you have.
Okay.
Who are like the go-to tuners? Is it, you said it's pretty hard to find like a good one. Is there just a very limited pool to begin with?
Well, I'm a tuner myself.
Right. Okay.
So
self-plug.
So you're the go-to. Yeah.
So I'm the go-to.
I'm the one in Minnesota. Yeah. I mean, there's other tuners too. There's, but nationwide, I only trust like a handful of them.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Man, I don't even know how these guys are doing remote tunes with this Miata customers. Like it's, you know, 16-year-old kid just put his turbo kit together. Yeah. Has like a boost leak. You should be able to catch that, but what if not? If it's only like running like 5 pounds of boost on wastegate, you're like tuning this thing. You're like, man, it's doing weird stuff. Or you just leave it. Like, what do you do? You know. So for me, that's one things I've been trying to like work with. If I can do like a remote tune, which I have done it after I check the car.
Yeah.
You know, and just kind of go over like, hey, your car's not in time. Like everybody that doesn't timing belt, they will mess it up. It's like the most common thing on Miata groups to be asked, is my timing right? And I'll take a picture. And it's like, man, you have to like, you should probably degrade your motor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know. You can't really check time with just one picture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't really work out.
No. Yeah. There's multiple points to check.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and belt tension and all that stuff. Again, that's why I say these motors are great if you know what you're doing.
Right.
So
it is a younger demographic typically too that gets access to them.
Yeah. It sells that. I get like the really young guys or the really old guys that have like way too much money and they're just bored of their fast cars. And they're like, I want to have something that I had in high school or something that was fun. And they're just like, oh, a little Miata. Mm-hmm. It's like, perfect. Yeah. Like you don't have to have this like that guy was saying, like a Porsche GT3 RS to have fun. I totally agree. Like,
yeah.
Keep it simple, man. Like, why are you stressing out?
That's good. There's a reason why they've been coming through on my Facebook Marketplace because I may or may not have been looking a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, my girlfriend picked one up a couple years ago, and I bought it and I brought it to her and be like, hey, can you help me diagnose this car? You have to drive it so I can hear this noise. And at that time, she's like, ew, Miatas? No way. You know? She's like, oh, okay. So we're driving. And I was like, hey, how do you like it? She's like, yeah, it's really fun. I was like, would you like to own one? She's like, yeah, not too bad. I'm like, well, it's yours. She's like, when you bought it, I'm like, I have a problem buying cars.
Oh, yeah, don't we all? Yeah.
So we bought this thing, and ever since she's had it, she's like, yeah, this is it. Like, she really likes that car. And it's stock. I'm like, it's an R package car, so it has like the Bilsteins and the limited slip. No AC, no power steering. But she like loves that thing. She has an E55 AMG as a daily. I'm like, so if you had to sell one, which one would you sell? She's like, E55. I'm like, what?
Really? Wow.
That's crazy.
She's like, yeah, Miata's really fun. I was like, all right, cool. She's asked me, she's like, can I drive in the winter? I'm like, no. You're not driving this clean thing in the winter. Like, it's too clean.
There's something about small cars, man. Like, I learned how to drive manual on the BMW Z3.
Oh, yeah.
Which, granted, cool. Like, every time I would go to shift, I'd, hit the steering wheel because, I'm a bigger guy. But it's like, man, if it just had one of those... blanking on the terminology, like a quick release wheel, it'd be so much easier. Like, it'd be perfect, the seat lowering, because so the previous owner of my car, he actually had a Miata. I'm not sure what year or generation. It was a little bit older.
Okay.
It was at least 10 years old.
Pop-up headlights?
Yeah, pretty sure it had pop-up headlights, yeah. And I sat in and I'm like, this is tight.
Yeah, there's like bunch of ways of like making room for tall guys. I mean,
oh yeah. It's just so funny looking over the windshield.
I have a really tall customer. I want to say he's like 6'6" or 6'7".
Wow, it's even taller than me.
He's pretty tall.
Yeah.
And yeah, he had to like cut his floor and get a special like floor cutout to drop the seat and like bolt the seat to the floor and be an aluminum seat. But yeah, he drove it. He actually drifted the car, but he would drive to events, drift the car, and then drive back.
Holy shit.
And it was turbo on like a 200,000 mile engine. And yeah, it was pretty reliable until eventually, obviously, wear and tear got to him.
Yeah, at that level, something's got to give, but right?
The car was in there first, and then we went turbo, and then he must have had it turbo for a couple years at least, or maybe 3 years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, drove it everywhere. That's what I tell my customer. I'm like, don't let this thing sit. Drive the thing. Like, I built it, for you to enjoy it. And
yeah, that's a theory we have. Like, me and one of my other friends who's actually been on this podcast before. Like, our theory is like, for example, like some of these supercars, right? That just sit. They only see like a handful of miles every single year, but they switch so many owners. And then you look at like the Carfax and has all these issues. Yeah. But the ones that are like 30, 40,000 miles, no issues. I feel like if you drive cars, they don't break as much.
Yeah, I actually just sold my SL600. It's a 98. I bought it from this lady. I put about 40,000 or 30,000 miles into it. It had when I sold it was 190,000 miles for a 1998. Like, it got driven, no issues. Like, had all the power. Yeah. Like, it wasn't like, don't floor it, it's gonna break. Yeah. Like, no, like, we're gonna use it. So yeah.
What about I guess maybe we should probably talk a little bit about Rotaries then.
I want to get there because
I just love the Miata conversation.
Well, this whole like race car thing, right? Like I said, we want to do some track stuff. Jay's doing some impressive stuff with this RX7, but I kind of like the way the RX8s look. What makes them such a like? I can get one for like $1,500, $2,500. I mean,
check for rust first.
Rust, okay. So like, what makes the RX7, the FD specifically, like so much more of a car, than the RX8, right?
I'm gonna go straight to the point. It's the looks. People don't like when the RX8 came out. I was like, oh, brother. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, why is it a 4-door?
But it's like a hidden 4-door. It's not really.
I love the RX. I've had an FC. I've had an FD.
Yep. And
now I have an RX8. And I'm like, which one would I pick over and over again? RX8. My interior doesn't fall apart. It's literally a stock motor right now. Just full bolt-ons on the E85. And makes decent power. Should be making like 200, 220, somewhere around there, which is not the most, but it's enough to get you around a track and catch up to BMWs and Porsches.
Well, the guys are saying in some of the RX stuff I've been looking into, the chassis on it's supposed to be pretty
Yeah.
badass too, right?
Yeah.
For handling and everything.
Super underrated car.
Yeah.
People always come to my shop and they see that I have an RX8 and they're like, well, how do you like that thing? I was like, I'm not going to even tell you how. Like, I'm just going to take you for a spin because you need to like experience it. You know, my car is set up on 265 square, 18 by 10s, 10 and a halves. And it just has brakes and it's not even on coilovers. It's on racing beat, lowering springs and sway bars and Tokiko yellow adjustable shocks. And just with that setup, I mean, it's pretty quick out of DCTC. I mean, the guys kind of know the car out there. Like, oh, shit, here it comes. It's that loud as RX8. But it still has a full interior, so it has AC. My radio works. I put about 10,000 miles a year, so I do drive the car.
That's pretty good.
While I have other cars to drive, you know? I drive the shit out of it, and I beat on it. It's not like I bought it with 72,000 miles. Now it has like 110 plus. Yeah, no problems. I will drive it everywhere. If it wasn't for E85 and the crappy 10 miles per gallon. No,
Yeah.
It's okay. E85 is cheap at least.
Yeah, E85 is cheap, but sometimes it's like I'm supposed to go to this race in Iowa, which was like a private event, and I end up not going because I'm like, I have a wheel bearing that's kind of like, you know, last minute stuff. I'm like, I probably can't even make it out there on the 85 because there's no 85 near the track.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, would I have to bring barrels of fuel? You know, I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I end up not going, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's one of the drawbacks, I would say. But other than that, it's a great car.
But back to his question, like, what is it that scares people away from the RX8?
Oh, the rotary engine, the Renesis. You know,
Okay.
Most of them were not taken care of. Like, for example, the first thing you should do when you own a rotary is premix and get rid of your cat. Like, the moment you premix or your cat gets clogged, or you don't premix and your cat gets clogged, yeah, that engine's going to go toast, like, really fast. You deteriorate it.
So they run like an oil injection. So that's the other thing is weird to me. So they still have a sump, right, to oil stuff. But would it have an oil injection otherwise too for also into the fuel?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So from factory, it actually has a oil metering pump which takes crankcase oil and injects into the rotor housings. So on early RX8s, only had 2 per rotor. And on the late gen, which is S2, which is 2009 and up, they had 3. So it had more oil in it. But what will happen is that these people will buy these RX8s and they'll never check their oil.
Not knowing that it's purposely pumping it in to burn it. Yeah.
So you end up with a, starved motor.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why is my car using oil? And they'll just be like, I don't want this thing. This thing is broken. You know, you're supposed to check it every other gas fill, which is quite often. I think it's like a quart every 1,000 miles or so, maybe less.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it does use a lot. So, but you should be premixing in case that oil metering pump fails, which does happen.
So you want to leave, so like I'm thinking like to my snowmobiles and 2-stroke stuff that I've got, right?
Yeah.
So some people just get rid of the oil injection and just premix. So if you premix, you're still leaving the oil injection in place as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Just because it's there.
Just throw all the oil at it.
Yeah.
Just,
it loves it.
Okay.
Like the smokier it is, the better it is.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that's, there's few guys on groups where they'll just buy a bunch of RX8s and they'll just make like, let's say they buy 5, they'll make like 3 good ones out of all the pieces that I have.
Okay.
Without opening the motor, they'll be like, oh, we'll just throw some like, what's that, mystery oil stuff, let it sit overnight, start up the next morning, make a huge cloud of smoke for like half hour, and then the seals will be back in its solid state where they move and they're not stuck because of the carbon buildup. And then they'll be fine.
Was that another thing that's pretty common is carbon buildup in those?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's why when
You're burning that much oil, you're going to have some
Yeah,
gunk.
that's fair enough.
well, now you have to evacuate it, right? So if your cat is clogged because it's been injecting a lot of oil, which is normal, they usually clog the cat, and there goes your motor. It's just, you're just packing basically, carbon buildup to it.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing. Like when I was looking into the Rotary, I want to say maybe a few weeks ago, like emissions is pretty much what killed it.
Yeah.
It kills a lot of things.
Yeah.
But if you use it for a race application,
Right.
Just get rid of the cats and you're
we
good to
all-
go.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just for the price that I've seen, I'm like, dude, I could buy one, race it for the weekend, throw it away, get another one, race the next weekend.
Yeah.
It's just like they're going for ridiculous, and I don't think they're a bad looking car. I like them.
I don't mind the looks either, personally.
Yeah.
I've seen that there's a red one going around here. It looks pretty cool. It has like some stuff done to it, but
That's mine.
is it yours?
Is it? Yeah.
Do you have like the crazy vents on the hood and everything
Yeah.
too? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that explains. Okay. Oh, who's this douchebag?
Yeah.
Just another idiot with an RX8.
No, I mean,
Loki thinks he's fast with the 1.3 liter.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of cool. So, what's the difference between that and then what's in the FDs, like motor wise? Is there much of a difference?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
FD is a lower compression motor to begin with. Biggest difference is that exhaust ports are peripheral on the RX7, which means it's like just two holes, meaning that each housing has its own exhaust port. Okay. On the Renesis, it uses the irons for the exhaust ports, so it's on the side, which, if you think about it, that slows it down quite a bit. But they did that for emissions. So
Okay.
but now there's people doing hybrids where you can take housings from an older RX7, not an FD, I think it's an FB,
Okay.
GLSE, I think it's the model number, but it's a 13B with the proper housing that you can use on the RX8 irons, and you can make a hybrid motor, but those usually are more for turbo use, not so much NA. And NA ways have lost some power because it's too much exhaust, not enough intake type of scenario.
Okay.
So, for NA, you want like what do they call it? I don't know if I'm saying this right. Scavenging effect.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Yep. So, you have to be smart when you're building an all motor car, very picky.
I was just watching, actually on the way here, I was watching a video of, is it Rob Dom?
Yep.
Yeah, building a 3-rotor billet engine. And the other thing that intrigues me is the fact that, so he's building this 1,000 horsepower motor, and he can literally like pick it up on the bench and move it around. Like I'm used to the V8 stuff. You got to have an engine stand. You're spinning stuff around. It's heavy as fuck. You got to have a cherry picker. I almost like it's just cute. You could sit it right on your bench, build an engine, and then slap it back in the car.
I don't know if you ever been to any like drag racing events, but all the Puerto Ricans will come out with a bucket. The bucket's for you to sit the rotary engine in it, take it apart real quick, replace some stuff, and throw it back in the car.
Really?
They use the bucket.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys really impress me. Like, man, they know some cool stuff and tricks about those motors. You were saying that 4-rotor motor, like,
Yeah.
dude, that's like $100,000.
Really?
Yeah, that's $100,000 like keg. All billets, yeah, that's $100,000.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy what those motors. I want to get a 20B, like a 3-rotor, or I mean, if I'm lucky enough, a 4-rotor. But man, the money that they fetch is ridiculous, and I think that's why a lot of people just swap these cars, because man, you can pick up a K swap motor for what, $200.
Yeah.
And if you're crafty enough, you can make your own engine mounts and stuff. Have to buy an adapter plate of some sort, but yeah, you can get into it pretty easily, which is sad because, again, just go buy another car, man. Stop ruining these RX, these rotary engines. Like
the Rotary is such a like just simplistic design that is. I mean, it's just nuts to me that they do what they do.
Like I said, once you figure it out, it's really hard not to like advertise that as it's actually a pretty good motor. So
I feel like give it a year of putting out highlights from this episode, we're going to see like a 5x in cost. So, there's some insider information. Go buy up some RX8s real quick.
Yeah.
And then sell them for 5x in a year from now.
Yeah. They're actually getting pretty hard to find already. And the price have gone up. Like, if you want a clean one, you're paying like $5,000.
Yeah.
Even with a low compression motor. Like, if you want a clean one. But it's hard to find them.
What's something to look out, like, besides the rust thing you mentioned earlier, what else is there to look out for? Like, if you're trying to buy one, an RX8 in particular.
If you look underneath and see oil leaking from the cat, maybe you should run.
Nah, just buy it and just do a quick rebuild. You know, if it comes down to it, they're not that complicated. And everything, like, you go into groups, people will help you out. Like, you can find all that info on it. And a lot of people's like, oh, we're gonna do this and like port it. I'm like, no, just leave it. Like, just do a light port if you're gonna do anything. Very light. You're not gonna pick up power. You're just gonna basically pick up sound. A little bit of power on top.
That's what I was gonna ask. Yeah, because like you can't do much porting with those, can you?
Not on the Renesis.
Okay.
The Renesis motor is a RX8. But if you have like an FD or FC or FB, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff to those.
Really?
Yeah. Unless you make, you know, if you make the Renesis a peripheral port exhaust, then you can kind of throw everything at it type of scenario. But I wouldn't recommend it if you're just trying to like buy a car and just go track it. Like, that's not how it works.
Okay. So if you needed to rebuild an RX8 though, what's that cost? Like if I didn't do it myself and I brought it to somebody like you to have it,
It's like pretty expensive.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends what's damaged on it. I mean, Mazda was selling their kegs for, I want to say 6,000, 4,000, actually 4,000.
Okay.
But now they're like, I think they're like 6,000 or 7,000.
Oh really?
Maybe 9,000 if you go into an FD motor. So they went up in price. So that option's kind of like, you know, not really feasible. So I used to tell people 8,000.
Okay.
Yeah, with labor, if you want to have a shop do it and go over the whole car and actually make it like good.
That's Coyotes cost you 10 grand to rebuild, so
Yeah.
I mean it's pretty comparable.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're done, you have a $30,000 car versus a $5,000 car.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be committed.
Yeah.
So
It's a bit of a cult following, for sure. Like if the RX8 is just
it's a weird niche.
yeah, definitely a niche.
Yeah, I can't like gauge the people that have RX. They either it's like completely stock or like clapped out drift car or, you know, swapped. Most of them I see, I'm like, yeah, that's probably gonna be swapped because they just gave up on the Renesis motor.
Yeah.
I get really excited when I see one on the freeway. I'm like, oh, sweet. And I'll like catch up to it and I'll look over and be like some teenage girl, like it's automatic. RX8, like it's her first sports car. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay. Never
Poor
mind.
thing's probably not getting all the oil it needs.
No, definitely not. So
I just remembered, yeah, I saw you on 169 South.
okay,
That's where I would have saw you last.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're probably like, car in your ears. That thing's pretty loud.
Yeah.
It only has like one muffler in it, and that's it. It's pretty much straight piped. Was I messing with you?
No, it was literally like stop and go traffic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I like to mess with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
It's like the slowest car, by the way. Everybody wants to race. I'm like, a minivan will probably beat this thing.
Yeah, you said you're making what, 220?
I'm never niding at it, so I'm gonna say anywhere from 200 to 220. It's
Okay.
you know, it's a used motor. Like that's been beat to shit.
And you have a turbo kit on it, and E85 is
No.
nothing.
No, just all motor E85 with
Okay.
full bolt-ons on a standalone ECU
Okay.
tuned by me.
Okay.
So
Oh, so it's NA then.
yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, it's all motor.
Would you ever consider doing a turbo on it? Or not really?
Yeah, I already have plans for it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
What are people getting out of those, like power-wise,
for
for the Renesis?
turbo wise,
Yeah, like for full-on builds, like if they're, building them to the gills.
I mean, there's one guy that made like 600, but I wouldn't really consider that, a legit number because it was like a little spike towards the end because they were using a giant turbo on it.
Yeah.
So it's not, there's really no power band on it. I'd say if you really just want to be like, I want to drive the thing, I'd say 400.
Okay.
400 is a good number. for
Gotcha.
those. On a like 100% stock 6-port, which is the manual engine, which is more dedicated to like NA, as the ports have to be different in order to take boost better, which the automatic RX8 engine is. So if you were to build a turbo one, I would use an RX8 automatic housings or plates, and then use the older RX7 housings for the peripheral port exhaust.
Right. Okay.
And then that way, if you do that and you know what you're doing, you can make 600. I can like easily. So
How do you go about again, this is like me and Dan, this is a whole new
Yeah,
world for
right,
us,
yeah.
right? Like, so like some of these questions might sound stupid to somebody who might be an expert in this, but like, how do you go about getting more rotors, right? Is it just like, you just
Longer studs, you just bolt them together, right? And everything works out?
Not really. So the eccentric shaft, which is a crankshaft that they use, you'll have to get a custom one made for the plates and housings that you're using. So certain motors are going to be shorter or longer depending on what you're using. So I usually tell people if you want to start stacking, rotors, you better have a stack in your wallet. So like it gets really expensive, basically.
Yeah, there's a guy out there with like 12 or something, right? Do you know how many have gone together the most? Is it 12, I think?
might have been. I think the most I've seen is
the
5.
boat? No, it's a boat motor that you're talking about.
Oh, that's the guy who's got them stacked like it's
yeah.
3-4 rotors like in a V8 configuration almost.
Oh, weird.
And I think
Yeah,
that
it
one
looks really weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that one was done a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's an old motor, man.
Well, like I said, I'm just going through rabbit holes of trying to do a
think-
little bit of research before this.
I think that's the one. I'm actually really excited for the 5-rotor stuff. They have a unique sound.
Yeah, I
to
saw
them.
the video like a month or two ago,
Yeah.
right?
And obviously the 6 rotors, like that thing is just wild. It sounds really good. Would I want it in my car? No. Like I'm already getting 10 miles per gallon, man. Like
Oh yeah.
like the fuel that engine's it's not efficient at all. So you just have to like hose it down with fuel and boost in order to like do something, even in an A&A form, you will have to just hose it down,
Yeah.
But I don't know. To me, like a good driving rotary car, it's just a 2-rotor, man.
Yeah,
2-rotor.
That's what Jay says, right?
I think
I
so.
think- I'm pretty sure his
Yeah.
is a 2-rotor.
He's waiting for it to blow because then he's gonna go 3 rotors. What he wants to
No,
do.
don't do that, man.
Really?
Nah, you don't need 3 rotors.
I would say the thing is freaking
Yeah.
pretty snappy as it is,
Yeah.
and he's pulling some great times out on the track. So
Yeah.
He's making like mid 300s, but it can make up to 5, is what he said.
Yeah.
Does that sound about accurate?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
I mean,
why not 3 though?
3 rotors just become so expensive, man. And now you're just adding this extra thing that, come on, like the more you add, the worse it's gonna get for road course.
right.
The only way I can see it's if he does like a nasty like A&A build. That will be the way to go. If you're a driver, you want like the response, the throttle response. Turbo, I mean, it has great response, but then now you're fighting that initial torque. It depends how it gets tuned, obviously.
Right.
So if it's like a nasty power band or if it's just like very linear.
His sucks in the low end. Like it's bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
When that turbo fires up, it takes the F off, but it's it's a little lacking in the bottom end.
Yeah, so it can be like manifold setup, wastegate setup, turbo setup, turbo exhaust housing. Like there's so many factors when it comes to like building a proper, good working, rotary engine.
So do they, given the lack of valve train and all that kind of stuff, are they more susceptible? So you said you got to hose it down with fuel, basically. So was super worried that his wastegate quit opening and he hit 30 pounds of boost in it. Do they have a tendency to lean out like a normal engine would, or
I mean,
you have this?
they'll be all in the tune.
Yeah.
Personally, I would put a boost limiter. So if it hits boost cut, have a have a limit. Don't have if it's set up for. He say it was set up for 15, 12, somewhere around there.
15 is like the max.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
and
so-
he hit about 30 when his banjo bolt came loose on his vacuum line.
Right. So for me, I would just not fuel cut, but fuel and spark cut at certain points, which some people might be like, oh, well, that would detonate and blow up your motor. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
So it all depends on, it all depends on the tuner. Like everybody has different ways
So
of.
they're also susceptible to like pre-ignition and stuff, though, like a
yeah.
normal engine would be. Okay.
Yeah. So detonation is like the end. Like you detonate once, it's done. Like there's no
okay.
like, oh, I'm gonna fix it. No, like that's it. So you have to know, what the limits are. I mean, is it okay to go to 30 pounds? Yeah, it might be fine. If it's a built motor and the tuner was like, we'll just keep it at here, but we're going to make the fuel table all the way to 30 pounds and same with timing and keep it safe. Yeah, let it shoot up to 30 instead of fuel cut, or not fuel cut, I should say, just limiter, boost limiter.
So if he had damaged something, basically he would know it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, you would have tried to start that thing and it wouldn't start right away until it's cool, and weird issues will start happening afterwards. Maybe hot start issues. Well,
Okay.
smoke.
More than normal.
More than normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I think I brought this up. I think it was in Jay's episode, right? Like when you have knock and all that, like you when something goes catastrophically wrong in a normal like a V8 or whatever, you get a piston through the side. What happens with a rotary? Like when something goes catastrophically wrong.
I mean, most of the time you'll break an apex seal.
Okay.
So what'll happen, that apex seal will travel everywhere. It shatters basically, and then you'll have fragments going everywhere. So you'll destroy housings and possibly the rotor itself, and who knows why. It's very catastrophic. Like you blow one up, like you most likely not going to use that engine ever again.
Like any component of it, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Like everything's fucked.
Yeah, everything's fucked. I mean, I've seen it where like you blow the front rotor, and then you'll see shrapnel go to the rear rotor via intake. And then like you're done. You know what I mean?
So it's not as simple as, I just blew an apex seal.
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Most of the time it's not, especially in a turbo car. Like it really does a lot of damage.
Okay.
So
Is there anything you could ever salvage? Because like I know some guys that you see blow motors sometimes downstairs, and you could salvage a lot of things.
yeah, it all depends when it happened. What's it like? 9,000
there's a lot of
RPMs
variables
with
there.
30 pounds of boost, or was it like
Yeah.
during traffic and you just ran it dry with oil and something happened? Like
Some small stuff.
Yeah, so it all depends. Or I see a lot of them, not a lot of them, but a very common one is coolant seals on the apex. Not on the apex, on the on the irons for the motor. Mm-hmm. They'll like corrode because they'll use like not a proper antifreeze, and they'll end up corroding and making a hole, and then you'll have a coolant leak. So in that case, you can salvage a motor like 95% of it.
Okay.
So
Jay, are you listening? He's gonna listen to this episode. He's gonna 100%.
this is like the episode where you get all the knowledge, like all the good info for rotaries and Miatas, I guess.
Dude, I'm telling you, he's probably got a notebook or a notepad on his phone, and somebody's probably talking to him. And he's like, "Hold on one second, I gotta write this down."
Yeah.
So what goes into like a built motor for like if you want to, again, like.
Is it the same? Like, are you getting diamond pistons? Is there like forged rotors and?
No, not really.
No.
So should we just keep it RX7 topic? Because RX8 is like, well, if you have an RX8, it's like,
let's do RX7 first.
Yeah, but say not a lot of people are building RX8s really.
So after this episode, they might.
For RX7, I'll just keep it simple. I mean, a lot of people like to stud them because they like that initial torque hit of a turbo spool. So if you're doing that, I would recommend studs, obviously. But if you have a big giant turbo, I mean, bolts are gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
People like to stud them too, like put bigger dowels, and then you just get better apex seals, and make sure you use all OEM, everything else. Don't buy like aftermarket stuff. Just stick OEM, and that's it. Better bearings you can do. Some people are doing dry sump, which
I've seen that. That's what that guy was doing on that other build. That looks complicated.
yeah, it gets really expensive.
Yeah.
Mainly. But is that a better system for road course? Oh, absolutely. You can add more. You have a bigger capacity, and it's always the same oil pressure. You don't have air bubbles happening.
Okay.
So it gets a little bit more technical once you start building like road course stuff. I feel like for drag racing, not really. You can just slap it in and go.
Right.
So
Well, it's more taxing on the engine for a longer period of time when you're doing road course stuff.
Yeah. And rotaries, I mean, they're like the hottest engine. They run so hot, it's crazy.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's what he was saying too. He has it's like a not pressurized coolant system on his FD. Is that pretty normal too? I mean, there's
it's like a swirl pod.
Yeah, I don't know what he's got, but he was like, it's something different or whatever. So I'm not sure.
Cool.
It was like not pressurized.
Is he talking about like a external water pump where it's electric?
I don't think he has that either.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It was rotary stuff. I was half paying attention. I'm like, that doesn't seem right to me. But
I keep my builds pretty simple, so I don't go too crazy.
Okay.
Like I said, I like to keep them simple, and as long as you do the right things, it should work.
Okay.
You know, so I don't know.
It's they look so cute in there. Like I said,
they're awesome.
For what you can make out of something that size is nuts to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And Mazda is talking about bringing back the RX.
I keep hearing that.
Yeah, it's been years. It's been like 4 or 5 years since they're like, oh yeah, it's coming back. But
aren't they bringing it back like as a generator or something? I saw something about
that's,
that.
That's a generator.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like a really good platform because I mean they already released it on a little SUV, and it's a one rotor, but it's a 1 liter one rotor. Mm-hmm. So now it's bigger.
Okay.
So
the potential of bolting a couple of those together is pretty good.
Or there are some people already buying those parts and making like billet housings and stuff.
Really?
To make like a 2 rotor or a 3 rotor. So if a 3 rotor would be a 3 liter, that'd be crazy. Like, if you buy a 3 liter now, or 3 rotor is only a 2 liter. So
that's crazy, dude.
Yeah. So the one, 2 rotors, it's only a 1.3. So if they come out with this newer motor, the two rotor should be a 2 liter, which is a big, huge, like gain for power.
Yeah.
I don't know about revs. Revs might be a little bit lower because of the size, but it's should be a pretty decent platform. People are like, "Oh, it's hybrid." Like, who cares, man? Have you ever driven Have you driven like a hybrid race car? They're fun. Like you get that initial torque of the electric motor, and then your power gets carried out.
It's a blast, dude. I drove like a 2017 NSX. Yeah. And it's just so fun.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. As long as it's controllable, which most new cars are. So I don't see why not.
Displacement's a weird thing on one of those. I was watching a video about it because it's like, what'd you say? It's like a 1.3 for a 2 rotor or whatever. But technically it would be like double because of like how it works. Like I've heard the argument before.
Yeah, I don't go down that road.
Yeah.
I just like, this is what it makes and this is what it is.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not going to get too technical on it. Yeah. What's going to do at the end of the day?
Yeah, right. Yeah. When did they stop making the RX8? Do you know?
2011.
Oh, 11?
Yeah, 2011, I want to say.
For some reason, that's the number I had in my head, too. I don't know. Not that I would ever even know. But
if you can get an R3 RX8, like the later gen R3, like you have gold. They're going for so much money now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's going to be like a collector's car again. Or a track-ready car. They come with like Recaro buckets, belty suspension. I mean, it's like a track-ready car.
Okay.
But you're going to be paying like $15,000, $10,000, a little bit more than just a $5,000.
That's still like you're talking to a guy who's driving a $70,000 car on the track. So like a $15,000 track car sounds kind of intriguing to me. So I don't wreck my expensive one. Yeah. I feel like I'd be like, screw it. Let's throw it into the wall. Yeah. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah. And like I said, it will just make you a better driver.
Yeah.
Like when you have an expensive car, you try not to have that price tag in the back of your mind, but it's always there.
Yeah, like, so that's kind of where I get at with it, right?
Yep. And then you become slower and then you don't really push your limits. So again, that's why I go back to go-karting for a long time. Rental go-karting. Because you can go out there with a bunch of friends and they're not going to be all the same speed, but that's why you'll be like, oh, is that one fast? Yeah, let me try it. And you'll switch out and then try it out.
See, that's the problem. So I'm a big guy, right? So that's where like I've got friends that like to go karting. I don't know, but I'm always in the slowest cart because I'm usually
on
I have not done that yet. Get into one where they do ballast or whatever, but when you're 70, 80 pounds heavier than some of the people you're racing, it doesn't really work out.
It all depends too on what track. If it's a very open layout, you actually might be pretty quick. The weight actually might help you stick better on the turns. As long as it's not like a super sharp and you have to brake a lot. So obviously acceleration does take. So you just have to play with, your driving technique will be different than my driving technique.
Yep.
Obviously. So.
You know what's my favorite track is Stockholm Karting Center out here?
Yeah.
Dude, that track is gnarly.
Yeah, we rent that every summer for like 2 hours. And
I rented it once a few years ago too.
You message a bunch of people and be like, hey, let's go. Let's go for fun,
Have you been to that track yet?
I haven't.
So if you remember Venom Rally when we went out to Niagara Falls, that one was a 0.8 one. I mean, we did a really cool like Le Mans setup. I wish they would do that out here.
Was that like a standing start?
Yeah, standing start,
Oh.
and then you have 4 to a team, and then you have to
okay.
switch out. Like it was super cool. But the one out here in Minnesota is 0.67 miles or whatever it was, outdoor track. It's so cool. Like I need to go back there. It's been a year or two.
Yeah.
It's a hike though.
It is, but it's worth it.
It's so worth it.
Like,
Get 10 buddies, do a cruise out there,
Yeah.
get lunch and everything. Because I think there's this really good Asian restaurant we went out to that was really good out there. Like halfway there, it was good.
nice.
Yeah, we'll have to do that soon.
Yeah. Maybe I can join you guys.
Yeah,
Well, we'll see.
if we
We'll
want to
see.
lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not the fastest. Just
Yeah. Do you have a
Just like
usual group of suspects you go with?
Yeah, I do. And they're pretty good. One of them is my shop buddy, which I share the shop with. His name is Chan Chong.
Okay.
I mean, he's been doing go-karting for a long time. So I kind of like him and I would go back and forth. I'm like, who's fastest? But I think he's faster for sure. Has more experience.
Yeah.
So if you go to Pro Kart in Burnsville, what are you setting for a time out there?
I have no
You
idea.
have no idea.
I don't go to.
I remember seeing somebody do like a 16. I'm like, fuck. That was just so fast.
Chan can probably hit that.
Yeah.
Like, no problem. I get motion sickness now because I'm old.
It is a thing, right? As I'm getting older too, it's getting a problem.
So now indoor stuff is like a no to me. And if I do have to take like motion sickness pills, it's just like, man, that sucks. I can do maybe like 3 or 4 races, and after that, I'm like, I used to go out. I used to be pretty good at MB2. I don't know if you ever went to that. It was electric go-karts.
I've never been there, but yeah, it's gone now.
Yeah, I had all the track layouts. I had the lap records for.
Oh wow.
So until it kicked me out, like, man, you come here too much. You know? But no, it was cool. I like go-karting just because it's fun. As long as you don't get people that are like sore losers, you know, you can't have those people. You have to have people that are willing to be like, this is just for fun. Because that's what we're going for.
Yeah,
but it'll still be a little bit challenging, you know.
I feel like some people take that whole like go-karting and bumper cars thing too
Yeah.
a little bit too. I got thrown in the wall a couple times go-karting. Yeah, and I'm like, dude, that hurts, man.
Yeah.
On the real go-karts, like
Yeah, you
that's
can
not
break your
fun.
ribs.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen people break ribs from a side hit. That's pretty bad. So I just try to go with the group that's like, you know, they're gonna learn from the faster guys.
Yep.
And the faster guys are just like, yeah, I'm okay sharing the knowledge, which is great.
I try and treat it like real racing. I'm not here like our cars aren't supposed to touch each other.
Right.
Like that's, you know, if I was on, we were at Road America.
I mean, you can bump if the guy in front of you is a little slower.
Yeah.
You give him the bump so they know.
So they get the hell out of the way.
Maybe move over.
Yeah.
Give him three chances. If not, you just go give him that little extra pusher on the corner so they go straight.
All right. Don't go kart with you. I get it. All right. I'm just kidding.
If you know the rules,
Yeah.
you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got so mad like when I went to a Pro Kart in I think it was Burnsville. A fucking like 12-year-old put me into a wall. Like I went under the wall. Like, because the wall wasn't secured or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So I literally went under it, and like the front of my car has all that whatever rubber and tire.
Yeah.
And like I was bleeding from my forearm. I was so mad, dude.
that
Just
sucks.
beat up a 12-year-old. You wanted to, didn't you?
I was so mad.
I've seen some nasty crashes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
My favorite is that one the video that goes viral like once a month of like just like 6 people just running into each other into that 190-degree turn. And one guy just didn't slow down at all, just gets rubber banded back.
yeah.
Any exciting projects you're working on right now then?
A lot of you guys know Ratified Motorsport for their RS3, TTRS, 1,000 horsepower hairdresser car builds, but they are so much more than that. From basic maintenance on an R35 GTR to, you know, cute little Volkswagen GTIs like mine, they're able to do a little bit of everything. Whether it's your basic maintenance or an intake and a tune or even a full-blown build, be sure to go to ratifiedmotorsport.com to get yourself booked today, and I hope to see you guys at the shop.
Yeah.
Or what are you working on right now?
So right now I have a client that has a Ford Escort. Out of all things, he's had it since that was his first car, and it's like this. I mean, you look at it and you're like, this is definitely like an early 2000s like tuner car.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I was gonna say it depends on what year of Escort, because some of like those 80s and 90s ones I think are kind of cool.
yeah, it's a '93.
Okay.
It's a GT.
Okay.
It's just a 2-door hatchback, but yeah, it's super cool because it's very nostalgic looking. Like you look at it and you're like, damn, that's cool. Like if you were in that, you know, if you were in the street scene back then, you're like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool, man. Like it brings back memories. Actually, that's how I met him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, street racing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's crazy because I don't think people are ready to see how fast that car is, but it has a Miata 1.8 fully built. It's on Fuel Tech. It has a really nice turbo setup built by a buddy of mine, Damon Larson. Like if you want to see a car that's well done, that's the one.
Really?
Yeah, it's a full-on build. I've had it in my shop since October, I think.
Oh, wow.
It's been there for a while. It's been like a dragging project. But, it started off like, oh, hey, just finish it. And then I'm like, well, this is wrong. And then we have to change this. And then, you're going to make... He should be making 600 horse when it's done. But I'm like, your bushings are, stock. Like, we need to upgrade all this. This car's not meant to make that type of power. So we did a lot of new things for suspension and stuff, and wheel bearings and brakes and everything, basically. I even undercoated the car for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I think that's a pretty extensive. And I have a couple Miata guys that are going off the wall, like all out builds. Like one of them is getting beat locks. Like it's getting serious. Like the Miata guys are kind of like going down this like path. I'm like, whoa, guys, I wasn't expecting you to go this far. So, I have another customer that has a 8.8 rear end with the TKX 5-speed on a fully built 1.8 motor. Like, whatever turbo you put on there, you can launch it and not have to worry about breaking a transmission or rear end.
Why would somebody need bead locks on a Miata? Like, what are they doing? How crazy is it getting?
Oh, yeah, it's getting pretty crazy. Like, you gotta think about it. This car's pretty light. So,
right.
like, you're gonna need some tire.
Mm-hmm.
So...
And you can't fit a big tire underneath there either, can you?
You can if you do some... Obviously, you have to cut up some stuff.
Right.
Are you cutting up some stuff?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we're going the other way. We're going outside. So
okay.
Might have to run, like, fender flares or something like that.
So how big of a tire is it going to be? Like a 265 or something?
No, not even.
Really?
Yeah, I'll be at 225.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
225 and still need a wide body.
But it's a street art tire. So it measures out to be like 9 inches wide.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So that 225 is just a number.
Right, yeah.
To be on a street class tire or whatever. But yeah, I think it'll be sweet. He just wanted to do it. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, how cool would it be to have a Miata with bead locks? And he's like, oh. And I think I planted that seed and I felt bad.
Yeah.
Cause now he's like, dude, bead locks are like, $2,600 a piece. I'm like, yep. He's like, oh, I think it'll be cool. And then he got some like really nice wheels for the fronts too.
Mm. That's gonna look badass though.
Yeah,
really cool.
Yeah, it's a, and he's going all out. Like that's gonna be a pretty fast car.
So like when you say pretty fast car, and you don't have to disclose it entirely, but are we talking like low 300 horsepower or?
Oh no. Okay. Like the engine I'm building him, it's good up to 850.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So, and he's on a 6466 turbo.
Okay. And
So-
that's still the stock motor, right? Or like
It's a 1.8.
1.8,
Yeah, BP4W, 99 2000.
Okay.
engine.
okay, so 99 2000.
But are you stroking it and all that stuff then too? No. Oh, okay.
I never want to do that, by the way.
Okay.
Like stroking a motor just weakens, cylinder walls or a turbo application. For NA, I would.
Okay.
But for the guy, I haven't came across a customer that's like, oh, I want to build a stroker 2.1 because, dude, just a stroker 2.1's like just the bottom end. It's like $7,000, $8,000. Like that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
For a Miata. Once you're building a Miata, you don't really get to see numbers like that.
Right. Yeah.
So
if it's good for 850, but you're not going to necessarily take it all the way up to the ragged edge, I'm guessing.
that'll be up to the customer.
Okay,
I always leave it
yeah.
up to the customer. I'm like, hey, we're going to build this thing to be capable of this. And then you just work your way up there. You don't have to go all the way up there.
So you're doing is it sleeves and stuff then,
Nope.
or you're doing rods and pistons, things like that then, or
Yep. Just
okay.
rods, pistons, studs, headwork.
You
Stock
gotta mess
cams.
with the crank or anything at that point too.
Nope.
Or?
Stock crank is good for people who have made 1,000 plus. No
Wow.
stock crank.
I can't imagine 1,000 horsepower Miata, dude. I thought the Honda guys were crazy, and now
Yeah.
we're talking Miatas,
Yeah.
even lighter.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So that's why I said I just keep it simple. Like I'll just keep saying that to everybody.
Yeah, it doesn't need to get. It's not a platform that needs to get carried away.
No.
I mean people tend to,
And it
but-
gets expensive. Like Miata stuff is not cheap just because you have to like do certain machine work and stuff to make it stronger. Like running 1/2-inch studs instead of the factory size. Lifting heads is kind of a thing for Miatas because they kind of are torquey to begin with. Like for most of the motors that are making 300 and making 300 foot-pounds. So think about that for a second. And it all comes in within the range of 500 RPMs when that goes from like being 120 horsepower motor to like 300. So have to kind of take that in consideration too when it comes to tuning.
Well, it also comes in tiers, right? Like if you look at any car, it's like, all right, you get to this power level, now you have to do this, right? So what are like the tiers if you're talking about Miata power, right? Like obviously an 800 horsepower build is different than a 300 one. So like what does it cost? Like what's the price difference between a 300 and an 800 horsepower Miata?
Well, 300 I wouldn't even open up the motor, to be honest.
Okay.
I would just put head studs on stock head gasket. And then valve springs and the oil pump gears. So that's basically it. And then you can set up a turbo. Most people are going with Mega Squirt ECU, which is fairly cheap. I recommend Fuel Tech because if you're going to invest that type of money, you should probably protect it with a good ECU.
So what's that roughly come out to?
I just tell, like, if you bring me a stock Miata and you say I want a turbo, it make up to 300. It's like 12,000.
Okay. And that's to
12
clarify.
to 15, depending on the quality that you're going with.
And that would, again, that's the 99 2000?
No, that's just any Miata.
Any Miata ever.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. And then now on the flip side, let's say something that's 800 horsepower.
Oh, man, that goes...
Add another 10 on top of that, maybe?
Oh, no, we're going... No. It gets expensive. So, like, just a long block ends up being... I mean, now you're adding a lot of machine work, too. I want to say 15,000 for just a long block.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it gets really expensive. Obviously, using a lot more exotic materials and quality stuff. So
you get the long block. Then what else goes into that? I guess do you have to worry about upgrading? Like, I can't remember what you said earlier, like the transmission and all that stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I say if you want to make 850, like, be ready to spend like 40 grand.
Okay.
40 to 50 grand.
Yeah.
Which
Which
seems on par with everything else when you're given the level of...
It's not a scary number. Like, it's a big number, but it's not terrifying.
Not for what you're getting.
For what you're
like,
getting.
you will die. You will die in that thing. Like, if you don't have traction control, if you don't have, stuff that makes it easier to drive, like, you will hurt yourself. I mean, 300 horses is it's a handful.
Yeah.
For some people. So
you do almost 3 times that.
Yeah. So, you go in stages until you turn it up a little bit, like, all right, man, this feels fast, and then like a month later you're like, oh, I'm kind of used to it. You don't go from going from go-karting to like an F1 car without any training in between and experience.
Yeah, that makes
sense. It does. That checks out.
So
what so is there anybody doing, like, I guess, big power in like the more recent year ones? Like, what's the latest generation?
Oh man, I'll lose track. It's ND, ND platform, which is like the angry eye looking one.
Yeah, yep. And that's like the last like 7 years, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
not sure when they came out. But.
Yeah. Those not really big power. Limiter is that they're direct injection, so you can't just like buy a Mega Squirt for it. You have to get it tuned, which I'm not touching any stock ECU stuff. Like, there's no safety parameters or anything.
For newer ones or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay. You prefer for it to be, what'd you say, Fuel Tech?
Fuel Tech or anything that's just a standalone. Honestly, I'm not afraid of touching any standalone. I can do it.
That's what I've heard from, like, I just did an episode with Kyle Larkin last week. He's big on standalones as well.
Yeah. Stock is good, but once you start getting into like serious builds, like, you should probably just go standalone.
You want a little more flexibility with it?
Yeah, I just look at the point of like safety parameters. Like, if something goes wrong, can the ECU stop it from completely destroying itself?
So you can put more like nannies into standalone.
Which actually a lot of newer cars, like high-end cars, actually have the capability of doing that.
Okay.
But the tuning on those, man, I give them props. There's so many tables for those things. Like, there's so much stuff. So I like to keep it, again, going back to just keep things simple. It's just easier to do it that way. It's better for me and the customer.
That should be your first t-shirt, by the way. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, that should be your merch for your
There
shop.
we go.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
Just keep it simple, man.
I haven't made shirts yet. I haven't made any. Like my whole shop has just been like word of mouth. Like if you know, you know.
And you're booked out to October, right? Like it's like,
Yeah, and it's like big. Whoa. That Escort kind of dropped me back a little bit. It's been like, hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. I'm like, oh man, it's still here, but I'll eventually get it done. So, and it's gonna be a great cart. Like I don't like rushing stuff. Like I like to take my time and make sure that everything goes as good as if it was my own car. So I take a lot of pride on like what I do. It might take you a little bit longer, but at the end result, you're gonna be a lot happier. Like I want to see this Ford Escort leave the shop and not come back for like just maintenance and that's it. Like I don't want to be like, oh, something broke. Like I would just, you know.
Well, if you were pumping out cars like that, then you probably would stop getting cars at some point in time. If you're sending crap work out, then people aren't going to be coming to you either.
Right. So there's like a balance of things.
Right.
You know, the people that appreciate, like I always tell people, I'm like, are you going to keep the car? They tell me no. I'm not going to suggest them to build it because I'm like, well, you're going to spend all this money and then enjoy it for like a year and then sell it. Like, what's the point? I want kind of a customer basis. Like the people are very, you know, passionate of what they have and then what they're willing to do with the car. So if they're like, yeah, at least 5 years, I'm like, yeah, let's do something cool. You know what I mean? Or if there's, most of the time there's a history behind the car that I'm working on. So, which is very unique.
This I should ask this question like a half hour ago, but so, and I think you may have already sort of answered it, but for example, like one thing that Jay was complaining about in his RX7 is like there's really no any low end. Is there any way to mitigate that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
What's no power at low end? Like how low is he going?
That's a good question. I'd have to look at his video. It's just like, I mean, like we talked about earlier, it's like, you know, they really wake up at higher RPM, right?
Like is he starting at 0 and then like there's no boost until 4,500 RPMs?
Like autocross, right? Like if he goes into second gear, he's not gonna.
Yep.
And then he has to go back into first. It's just a whole weird thing because he's not able. What did he say? He's not able to downshift into first.
He can't go into first, which we were talking a little bit before this. He says kind of a Mazda problem.
Oh really?
Yeah. You have to have certain things in order, like the right fluid. You know, take apart the transmission. Is it hurt? You know, is the synchro hurt? Or you know, what shifter you have in there? Even a shifter could stop you from going into that. I've had that issue. So, you know, there's a lot of things that play into that. But
so if he wanted to wake it up, you know, right when he switches into second gear, then is there anything that he could do to liven it up?
I mean, if it's turbo, just go smaller turbo.
That's what I was suggesting too. I was just curious.
But doesn't necessarily have to be smaller. You just have to be more efficient.
Okay.
So is this turbo manifold efficient to flow at low RPMs, or is this just a big old freaking manifold that has no velocity? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of dated parts on there.
Yeah.
I think this car was built by an older gentleman engineer guy. So I think a lot of the parts are from like probably 10, 15 years ago. This guy built this car and all this stuff. And there's probably been
the
some
guy owned it for
advances.
20 years.
Yeah. So the turbo technology is not there. Let's be honest. Turbos nowadays spool way faster than any old turbo, and they're more efficient, and they're smaller, and they make way more power. So in his scenario, I don't know. I'll have to look at it, but
yeah, I'd be curious to see if it's like you said, if there's no velocity going in there too. That almost kind of makes sense.
Well,
would that be just like if it got like ported or something, or?
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of
questions.
Questions
The
that
intake that he has on the top looks just like any other one I've seen on a.
Yeah, you don't change those.
Okay.
Like there's people making like 900 horse on those, and they're just fine.
Okay.
You know, it's just, you know, like I say, it's all how you put the car together.
Right.
For example, my RX8. There's actually a turbo kit out there, which you have to buy pieces to put it all together. Like they'll sell you the manifold, and then you have to buy the turbo, and they'll come with the downpipe. And like that's the only way to get that. But that will full spool by like 3,200 RPMs, and it can make 400 horse.
Wow,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
like that's pretty. But like I said, who's racing at that RPM? Like who's bringing their car down that low? It's like you have to have a mentality that this is technically like a 4-cylinder. Like you can't go down that low. Like Miata guys are like, oh man, my car's slow. I'm like, are you downshifting? They're like, no. I'm like, well, you can't just drive it like a V8. Like there's no torque.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you want to keep it in that 4,000 and upper.
Oh yeah.
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 Okay.
And that's kind of like a common thing for a lot of small displacement cars.
Okay.
Or engines, I should say. And yeah, most of the ones that make really high horsepower on the top end don't really make good power on the bottom end.
Right.
Just like any other V8 car, you know. Obviously, it's different numbers.
Yeah.
Because there's torque.
Yeah.
So
Are most like rotary builds typically single, like a big single sort of deal? Or
I have a customer with the twin,
okay,
like aftermarket turbo setup, and it's a twin turbo GT28 setup.
okay.
So each rotor has a GT28 attached to it.
Oh, okay, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it sounds amazing. Like that car is so much fun to drive, and he's not making crazy power either. He's like on pump 91 with old school power FC ECU, which is like that little handheld. I call it the Game Boy.
Yeah, that's what Jay's got, something like that.
And
in
I'm
his
like, dude,
car.
get rid of this. So he's finally getting a Fuel Tech FD550 on there. So we're doing that later this year. But it's so much fun. He probably makes like 320 wheel, super low. Like he's had the car for like 10 plus years. And he's like, yeah, he drives it and there's no issues. You know?
Are you tuning rotaries then too, or just Miata stuff?
I have before. I'm not like, hey, I'm a rotary tuner.
Yep.
Because I'm gonna say I'm not. Like I'm not just specific to that, but I have like the foundation of like understanding of how a rotary works and what it needs for timing and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, and plus I have some friends down in Florida who are supportive of like sharing like, hey, I can see that you're doing this. You should probably not do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they'll explain it, you know, or just give me hints, you know, which is nice.
You know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
But like anything that's like a crazy build, but like, you know, something that's 300-400 horsepower you're more than capable of.
I'm willing to build all out drag, you know. Obviously, it doesn't scare me.
Okay.
So, or anything that's rotary powered. you
Yeah.
know.
So what you're saying is we should put Jay on a Fuel Tech and send him your way then.
Hey, I didn't say that. But if he wants to, I always tell people, I'm like, don't go to a shop that people tell you. Go to a shop that you feel comfortable and have the same energy as the people that are in there.
Well, that's one of the reasons I really like this podcast, because like for example, I did a podcast, I want to say, I think it was in mid 30 episodes or whatever, and like people heard the episode and the guy got 3 calls on Monday, and it's like, oh, I want you to do my 1JZ, you know. It's like, because the guy specializes in 1JZ. So like 2 hours, like, which is what we're going to be coming up here soon, it's like people get to know you right before you know you even talk to them. So that's like one of the reasons like I really enjoy doing this, because people you know, it's like, oh, I like that guy, I'm gonna call him, you know? So that's what I'm saying is like, if we're gonna force Jay to listen to this, he's got some things to learn.
Oh yeah, no,
because now he's gonna buy a Miata. No, like this guy's impulsive enough; he'll do it. Like, I think, like Dan said last episode, he's like, "Oh, can you guys get those things in like a little 3-pack?" You know?
Yeah.
But no, like, so like a more modern ECU would probably help that car though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, more modern ECU, a little more modern turbos.
Yeah. I wouldn't even open up the engine, to be honest. I would just do a compression test, maybe stick a scope in there and just kind of look at the health of it, and that'll be it. I try not to, you know, a lot of shops will be like, oh yeah, let's get you on this bill and stuff. I'm like, no man, like I just want you to drive the thing.
If
Like,
it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of type situation.
I don't want you at my shop all the time. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. You know, I want you to be enjoying out there and be like, yeah, Antonio at 87 put this together without going crazy on it, and it worked. Like, yeah, that's kind of like my thought of train. You know?
Well, it's like there's no better advertising than a good product, right?
Yeah.
It's like if your guy only comes back like once a year for like basic maintenance,
Yeah.
but he's out there actually racing the car, people are gonna be like, oh, well, who did your car? That's so much better as a referral than, you know, them coming back to keep building and more and more and more.
Right. And that's how my shop has been advertised, to be honest. I'm like, yeah, if you guys want to leave a Facebook comment and be like, yeah, good job. You did a great job or something, or just talk to your friends and be like, yeah, he did it. Like, I picked up so many builds that way. Like, a friend just referred his other buddy, and his buddy told somebody else, and then I got this crazy build coming. I'm like, all right, cool. Like,
that's so cool, dude. Like when you see people that are out like 3-4 months, like for example, we had Janderson on. I think he was out like 6 or 8 months or whatever for heads.
That's not unnormal, by the way, across shops. I don't.
Not for a good shop.
Yeah.
So
Normally months out at a
like
time,
if it's too quick, you're like,
yeah, right, yeah. Oh, you can
Hold
get
up.
me in tomorrow? Wait a second.
wait
yeah.
a minute.
Noted.
Yeah.
No, but no, there's a lot of great shops, including Janderson, by the way. I end up actually reaching out to him after I watched the episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
funny.
So I'm working
See what
with
I'm
him,
saying,
so-
though? Is like
yeah.
people will listen and be like, oh, I like that guy.
Yeah, yeah. He's pretty knowledgeable too. He's like very understanding of what my needs are. Like I'm very picky on stuff, by the way. So like
Yeah.
for me to find a local machine shop, I was like, I've been fighting for like a year or two. So I've been sending all my stuff out of state because I'm like, I don't trust anybody. I'll just send it out to the people that I actually trust, But
And that's all he does, by the way, is just heads.
yeah, that's perfect because now he's like really good at it.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it Mini Coopers that he
Yep.
like? That's his big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
He's like, some of these guys like they really want to, just keep porting, and it's like, well, hold on, you like we go back to our earlier discussion about velocity and all that stuff. It's like, how does it flow and all that?
Just keep
It's
it
so
simple.
fun. Dude.
Just keep it simple.
What's a crazy thing is like me. I tagged Dan in a video the other day, or not video, a post. Jokers down in Chicago, like he does a lot of like Lotus stuff now, but like basically just porting. What was it? Superchargers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's like he always shares like shoddy work of like he's like, oh, gotta fix this fucking thing now. And it's
Yeah.
like so knowing who's porting your various things is very important apparently.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Bigger isn't always better.
Yeah, exactly. And you get into the Miata stuff, and again, people just like they lose control when they start talking turbo stuff and like big power, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta hog out this thing." It's like, no, like this thing just needs like a light work, and that's it. Like
Yeah.
that's the best it's gonna flow. Like there's no other way. Like this head has been out there for like decades. There's nothing that you're doing that's gonna change this thing, unless like a new technology comes out that
Right.
it's new to the market. But yeah, you don't have to overdo stuff.
No, I
to
think the
make it
analogy
work.
I used on the Janderson episode was hot dog down a hallway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes bigger isn't always better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
God damn it, man.
It's funny.
Every porting episode.
Yep.
Yeah, we should get him back on.
Yeah.
That was a fun one. I feel like I'm more like I've learned so much more since then. I'm like, this would probably be a more efficient episode. But no, it just seems like you care a lot about like the overall ecosystem of what you're building.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, all right, like, cause some guys just like to throw, like, some guys can build the fast LS, right? We can get 2,000 horsepower out of that thing,
yeah.
but we can't put it down anywhere.
Yep.
We can't make it live.
Yep.
Whereas, it seems like that's kind of your goals. Like, let's have it live.
And I've seen it all, man. I've seen it all. Let's be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I like once you get to this level, you just kind of like take a step back and be like, what do you really want to be passionate about? And like, what's your goal?
Yeah.
So, I mean, fast cars are fun, but it's almost a reminder that like you started somewhere. Maybe you should go back there and try it again and see how much happier you are. Then like I have some weird cars.
Okay.
I used to have a bunch of Mercedes collection. I used to have a bunch of V12 stuff. And then I've always been a Mazda guy because that's kind of where I started. Actually, I started on a twin turbo Stealth, but let's not talk about that car. That car was kind
Those
of
have
a
been
nightmare.
catching my eye lately too.
Dude, same here.
Yeah.
Like I know how much a pain in the ass they are to work on, but I'm like they're just such a good looking car and they drive so well. It's kind of hard to explain it to people unless they haven't like driven one yet.
Stealth. What's the other platform?
3000 GT.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the Stealthy because I couldn't afford the 3000 GT
Yeah.
at 17 years old. But it was a twin turbo one and it was fun. But yeah, so I've had that. And then my first car where I actually like did all the work myself was an MX3. It was on ITB, so my first build. And then after that, I did a stock turbo 323 GTX from Japan. Very small turbo. I mean, I think it's tiny. And it kind of semi-built the motor with like using stock factory parts, but that are stronger. It was like my budget build, but
Yeah.
the thing was fast. I mean, I met some great people that way, like with that car, because it made 260 wheel on 85 back then. This is 2009, 2010, somewhere on there. And I mean, I was like beating. There's this funny story where I raced a stage 3 STI because he was like, man, yeah, that thing is fast. I'm like, all right, cool, yeah, let's race. And I just end up like beating him with this little like stock turbo like MX3, which is like the weirdest car. Do you even know what those things are?
I'm not sure
It's
what
like the
an
hatch
X3 is.
thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I'm like, I always had a soft spot for those cars.
MX3, like that's like the Speed 3s, right? Or
No.
I'm thinking about something else.
They're like 90s. Like nobody wanted them. Let's be honest. They're like the weird niche.
Yeah.
Like if you had one, they were very popular in like Europe and Canada and South America actually. But in the US, it wasn't the greatest hit. They had like a 4-cylinder option and they had a V6 option, which the V6 was a 1.8 liter V6.
Holy crap.
Smallest production V6 out there, which is funny. But yeah, recently, about 5 years ago, I acquired another one after I sold all my projects. And I said I wasn't going to do this anymore. I picked one up and I was like, oh, okay, this is it. It was a Texas car, super clean. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to build this. Well, it's been 5 years now, but it's all-wheel drive using a Toyota Celica drivetrain. It's actually a Celica WRC, if you know those generations. It's like a ST205. And it has a Miata 1.8 engine in it. It's a BP4W 99.
Yeah.
With aluminum rods, billet mains, all the really high horsepower stuff. So goal was 1,000 horsepower, but maybe I'll just bring it down. Because like, I'm like, do I really need it? No. I don't want the mains, man. I might even like sell the aluminum rods. I might just go back to steel rods and keep it at a lower number where I'm like, I can just get in this thing, turn the AC on and just drive it. And then, you know, if I want to take it to the track, I can and be pretty quick, you know, so.
You're kind of going over that hump.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everybody goes through that in life. It's like, all right, let's dial
Like,
this
I don't
back.
want to work on the car. I don't have time to work on like my own stuff. Most of the time it's just getting like,
That's every shop owner ever.
yeah, like everybody else gets their car done. I'm like, where's your car? I'm like, still not done.
Yeah, like when we had the Ratified After Hours episode 91, it's like Rat's like, we literally had his dusty RS3 in the background.
Yep.
He's like, yeah, man, I just gave out a bunch of parts from this car for customer
Yep.
cars.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe I'll probably start finishing it. And now, like, I think after that episode, like he pulled an all-nighter. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Dude,
Some motivation.
I had to look it up real quick, this MX3. This is, I don't know if I've ever seen one of these in the wild. That is...
Yeah, let me see.
So I actually have 3 right now.
Of course I do.
And 2 of them are Mazda Speed. Like they're just so rare nowadays. They all
Yeah,
got
that's
crushed.
kind of cool looking, though.
Yeah.
And what'd you
Yeah,
say they come with a motor?
There's 2 options. A 4-cylinder, it's a 1.6, like a Miata 1.6.
And then that 1.8 you were talking
And then the
about.
1.8 V6, yeah. Which my V6 one has a 2.5 liter swap, which is a for probe motor. Technically,
Yeah.
it's the same cal. Yeah.
Okay.
K-Series motor before the K-Series.
Are they pretty decent? The 2.5... I'm actually looking at a 90 right now that's got a 2.5 turbo
Oh, okay.
Probe GT.
Okay. Again, like what's done to it and like
I believe it's all stock.
oh yeah, that's like on the limit. But again, it all comes down to if it has a standalone ECU that you can control things a lot nicer, so you
Okay.
can like make
Squeeze a
decent
little bit.
power and
Okay.
yeah. The only reason that platform didn't really take off is because of the transmissions. Transmissions just blew up left and right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you make a third gear pull on the turbo one, and like 90% of the time you will blow it up. Like you will just strip third or fourth, one of those 2. So that's
So it's not just one.
yeah, and like you know, people just kept replacing transmissions, and they're just like just get rid of this thing,
Yeah.
get something else that's newer, you know, and more efficient.
Do you do a lot of transmission stuff too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know some guys like to avoid it.
I kind of have to because most of the stuff that I'm working with, they all have inferior parts. You know, you can do tricks. I'll call it tricks in order to like prolong the life of it, but eventually we'll give up. You know, there'll be a point where it will lose its strength unless you're maintaining it like every year, taking it apart and checking it.
So what's a typical like upgrade for transmission stuff look like in like a Miata?
Man, like I said, there's a BMW transmission swap that you can do. I don't like it.
But there's not something you take from like the original or anything like that. Typically.
I mean, you can do a 6-speed swap.
Okay.
It's a little bit stronger. I used to tell people to just take it apart. There's I think it's like 3rd or 4th gear. It can come loose. it'll move because it'll flex. So
Okay.
if you put a C-clip on there or some sort of, or you can weld that gear so it doesn't move, then it'll become a little bit stronger.
Man, there's always something little, like a weird thing. Every single car, it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
just do this like 20-cent or $3 part that you throw
Which
in there.
you know came across the table at the meeting, right, before it went out into production, and they're like, well,
Wait.
just for another 30 cents per car, and they add up the number, and they're like, no effing way, bro.
Yeah.
Send it.
Some sort of warranty work or something just
Yeah,
to
right.
keep the dealers in business or something.
I mean, I have a customer that makes like 420 foot-pounds on a Miata on a stock 6-speed, and he drifts the car and uses it on the
That's a
street.
lot of power for a Miata, dude.
Wait, hold on. You want to hear the total number? So it's 420 foot-pounds and 397 horsepower. So it actually makes more torque and horsepower. Well, that thing is violent. Like when the boost comes on, it's like, hold on, buddy. Like this thing is rowdy. And that one, that one's again a simple build, just built bottom end, stock head with a eBay turbo and E85. So wasn't my recipe, but it works for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still going around. Engine might be a little hurt from all those pull. I mean, he really. I think on the dyno, it wasn't getting boost, and his boost controller kept backing out. So it was like a manual boost controller, and I was just like got sick of tired of just doing like one turn and like not doing anything. And I gave it like 4 or 6 turns. I was like, I guess safety parameters on the ECU. I go make a pull, and it's that pull that made that power. And I look down, the boost gauge just goes like past the numbers. And I'm like, how much boost was it? I was like, I have no idea, man. It went past the numbers. I think it was like a gauge for 20 or 25 pounds, but it just went past that. Like, I was like, I guess that's where it's staying. And it lived. So
Well, drifters aren't really known for taking care of their things, right?
no.
Yeah, no, those cars get abused.
Oh yeah. I actually built one, and then I think we hurt the stock, the engine that we just rebuilt, because we literally took it down the road, made like a 27-pound break-in pulse like a couple times. I'm like, it should be pretty good. And then he goes out there, first thing he does is like just bounces off the rev limiter. I'm like in the car, and I'm like having a heart attack. I'm like, are you gonna shift? And it was just like, I'm like, that's gonna hurt the engine for sure. Like, you don't have things set properly, and so I'm like, let's just take it back. So I might be building him another engine. Like I'm paying for it. Like he wants to pay for it. I'm like, I'll take care of it, because that was kind of I should have educated him a little bit better about that. So
Don't send it right out the gate.
I mean, I've done it before, and it works just fine. But we were using like used parts, and this build was like put together in like a day or two. So things might have got forgotten on his end, and I try helping him and stuff. But
Yeah.
You can only do so much when you're on a budget build. So things happen.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm okay saying that. Like, you learn. Like, don't take a brand new motor out there and bounce it off a rev ladder
Yeah.
for drifting.
Maybe not right away.
Not right away. Do a little break-in.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions coming to mind here before we
No, I
start?
don't. This has been great, though. I know we've had a lot of Miata and questions, and this is all something we've all been kind of itching to learn about. So
Oh, yeah. No, I was like, yeah, I think it's time.
yeah,
Yeah, because like we started saying things on the J episode. I'm like, yeah, I think we're talking out of our ass here. We should probably, get a little educated.
There's also
on.
a lot of misinformation out there, too.
Anything
Oh, yeah.
come to mind that we didn't touch on?
Not really. I mean, I am starting to veer off on other platforms here. I'm probably going towards like more of a drag racing like shop, where I can like set up like from start to finish on a drag project. Mainly imports, I should say that.
yeah.
Imports, anything come to mind in particular?
So right now, actually, one of those MX3s is getting a Myvec 3.8. Do you know what those things are? It's a Eclipse V6 motor. It's a 3.8 liter. Ugly. People say it's ugly. Eclipse, the little bubbly one, last gen.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
But those motors, man, people are sleeping on. I'm telling you that right now.
Really? Okay.
Sleeping on that. Those things are actually really nice motors. As far as like just making the power, I don't know about reliability, but it can make it.
Yeah.
As a drag car, it's pretty good. Like, again, I have a lot of Puerto Rican friends, and this is like the go-to motor for NA. They're running nitrometh for these stock engines and making somewhere around 450 to 500 NA. Like you basically pick it up in a junkyard, bring it home, lock the MIVAC, or they call it MIVAC killer, put a bigger throttle body, do an exhaust that's a little bit bigger, stock headers, stock everything, put a fuel tech on it, go run like low 10s.
Really?
Or 11s, depending on which fuel you're using, you know, which is impressive. And then they drive it home, some of them. And then some people are, you know, trailering and stuff, but really impressive more. So I'm trying to bring that up here because I feel like Minnesota's a little behind on drag racing. Mm-hmm. So
that's a common theme we're hearing, by the way. Like when we talk to certain people, like it's like, how do we build it up here?
Yeah, Kerry's doing a great job.
He is doing, dude. This last event, the Speed Summit, was he brought in some big
I was
names.
supposed to go there, but my car got hurt and the transmission got hurt. Transmission. So
are you gonna try and make it the 2.0 one?
Yes.
I think I'm gonna enter the car in for that one.
Yep, I will be.
Okay.
And again, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, my car's not fast." You don't have to bring a fast car. You can bring a 15-second car. As long as you're consistent, you're in that bracket racing now.
Yeah.
You know, so like
it's not. Yeah, your car can do all those things, but if your car excels in one thing or other, they take all of it together and add it together. So it's not like if you suck at drag racing, but you kill it in autocross.
Yeah.
It's kind of
you're talking about doing like
the triple track.
Oh yeah, I was gonna do the triple track.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, why not?
But the drag racing just by itself, was worth watching.
Yeah. Yeah, and it motivates you. Like every time you go there, you're like, oh man, there's actually really cool people here that are actually pretty knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guys from Colorado here.
Yeah, PFI Speed, I think it was it? Is that
Yeah. So
there's another group from Chicago too. I forgot what they were called, but there's people from all over that came for that.
Yeah, and it was a great event. I kind of mad I missed it. But
what does it take to grow, or what do you think it's going to take to grow the drag racing scene a little bit more here?
I think more support. I feel like everything's kind of gated. Like they're not like willing to share. I mean, drag racing has always been like that. Like, but more like helping each other in a way of like, hey man, like don't beat yourself if you can't put a turbo kit on your car. Like just go out there and have fun. You know what I mean? Like don't wait until your car's fully built. Like work your way up there.
Make it a process, like a journey rather than a destination.
Exactly.
Sort of deal.
And it's all about the experience. Like all these drag races don't do it because they're like, oh, I love taking up my engine apart every other pass to retorque head studs. Like that doesn't sound fun. But to have your friends there and to have your family or people that support you and just the journey, like you took a trailer out there or whatever, you drove that car out there and drove it back, like just things that you can say down the road, be like, I did it. You know what I mean? And like I did it with these people.
Worry about getting spanked by a 9-second car either. I saw plenty of 12-14-second cars out there. Go out there, run it like you said, and they're not going to put you with those cars necessarily. They try and keep everybody in a class, and keep it together.
And I feel like a lot of people now they just want to win. And it's like, dude, that's not the point. You know, like you can go out there with whatever you have and make something out of it. You know, all the fast guys that have gotten fast, they didn't start with a fast car. They all started with really slow cars to begin with, you know, and work your way up there.
Well, it's like all the Honda guys that we had on. It's like at some point, those things were making 200 horse, then 4, then 5, and now we're at 1,000.
Cars stock.
Yeah. So
yes, everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a fun event. I'm excited. That was my first time like experiencing proving grounds for a whole weekend, right? Which is basically what it is, just reimagined.
Yeah.
I think Charlie is doing a pretty good job.
Absolutely.
I think this next one's going to be kick-ass. I think the dates,
from the stories that I heard about proving grounds and then having been to the Speed Summit, I didn't see any of that nonsensory that they were talking about. It was very classy. It was a good time.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to get rowdy once in a while.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We were definitely rowdier. Like compared to like...
We were like adult rowdy though.
Yeah.
It wasn't like...
Whatever you want to say. We drove up to Piero's tent and fucking honked at like 11 p.m.
And we got yelled at.
Yeah, we got yelled at.
Yes, it's not like we were misbehaving and we got scolded.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Just hearing us, God. It was... I can't say... I hate having to say I can't say this on camera, but some of the stuff that Jay was saying was fucking absurd.
Yes.
Like, it was the three of us in the go-kart, and it was the funniest thing ever, just driving around a track. So, so it'd be awesome to see you up there then. What are you planning to bring?
That MX3, the red one, the
V6
one.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah, and some nitrous.
Oh, nice.
Checks out.
So again, I'm not looking for a fast number. I have a goal in
There's
my
always
head.
somebody faster too.
I'm like, I have a goal. If I can hit that, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Which is it's not the fastest thing. So
Putting a helmet on and driving your car down a track is already like a bonus win anyway, right? Like it just gives you like this whole other feeling.
Yeah.
You get a little adrenaline rush from it. It's
yeah, and to be honest, my first time at a quarter mile track was last year.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, last year I took my V12 Mercedes out there.
And which one was that again?
It's a SL600,
Okay.
1998.
Gotcha.
Automatic V12, just stock with catback exhaust, technically. And I'm like, car and driver said I ran like a 14.2 best.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to run 13.9. Like, that was my goal. I did. I went up there, got better and better at my reaction times and, just learning the car. And on my last pass, I actually ran a 13.9. So
Nice.
I was like,
Nice.
yes. Like, that pumped me up. I was like, I have to be back. And I went with some of my customers too. And they ran great times too. I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like, why aren't we doing this more often? And I like that energy, like it's like competitive, but like in your own field, if you want to call it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you've worked on 1,000+ horsepower builds,
Oh yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you've have a nice wide range of cars you've worked on. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to see that you have an appreciation for like the low horsepower stuff too, which is still technically high for what they are.
Yeah. And it's, it's all in your head, man. Like I always tell people, I'm like, again, keep it simple. You don't have to go crazy on it to have fun. Like,
It's all purpose too.
yeah, have a purpose for it. Like, as long as you have a purpose, you most likely not gonna sell that car. It's weird. I don't think I have any customers that just like go through cars. I mean, I do maybe for like daily stuff, but not like their project cars they're like, oh no, I've had this for a long time. I'm like, cool. Like I can kind of see eye to eye with them. So it's just nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to pop the usual 3? We just crossed.
Yeah, I
2.
saw that. We're at 2 hours. We probably should. All right. So at the end of every episode,
Yeah.
we like to ask our guests to pick 3 cars.
Yeah.
You got to pick a track car, a daily driver, and a show car. You have an unlimited budget. Build whatever you want. Swap whatever you want. What are you picking?
I'll go with the easiest one, which will be the track car.
Track car, show car, daily driver.
Daily driver will be like a newer S63 AMG. I'm an old man now, man. I need my massaging seats with heated and cooled. Those things drive so nice. And they look great. So I think it'll be one of those, which that's actually like a goal that I want to get.
Yeah.
I sold all my Mercedes, so now I'm like, I don't have any Mercedes left. I'm like, I need another one.
Those come as a wagon too, don't they?
The E-Class does.
The E-Class does.
Yeah,
But the
which-
S doesn't. That's a sedan.
Yeah, the S-Class is like the big body, like the biggest one that they sell, which they also come in V12 or V8 twin turbo or hybrid. I think they even have a hybrid one.
They still have a V12 one?
I'm not sure.
okay.
I think they cut the line for that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just doing the V8 stuff, if that.
Yeah.
So
Dude, those are amazing. Like I got to drive around an E63. I think it was like an 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so plush.
Yeah.
Like if I had to go in order, Mercedes, BMW, Audi. Like if we're talking about German cars being like comfy, dude, Mercedes knocks it out of the park, I think.
yeah, and the quality's there. I mean, I always tell people, I'm like, shut the door in that car and compare it to another one. It's not the same. Like the ride quality is so nice too. They definitely got it down. A lot of people are like, the new tech stuff is too much for them. But I'm like, I think it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a track car, are you saying like road course?
Whatever you choose.
Man, that's a hard one.
Yeah, choose your application.
Because it's between that or the show car. Like they're both show cars or track
They
cars.
can be dual purpose technically.
Yeah.
So
Well, definitely a Zonda R for sure.
For show car?
Track car. Let's put a track car because it's technically not a road legal car. And then for show, I'll have to be kind of a little old school. It'll be a Gallardo Superleggera twin turbo.
Nice. There's
Yeah,
one for sale
gated.
locally.
Gated.
Yeah. There's
The-
one for sale locally.
The gray one.
Yeah, the gray one. Yeah.
I worked on that car.
Oh, did you?
yeah.
There's only like 1 or 2 in existence in that color for a Superleggero or whatever,
Yeah.
I think.
Is that the
Something
one that's up at Brainerd?
It might be up at Brainerd right now. Well, it's AJ that has it right now. AJ's garage.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if he still has it. I was supposed to do a video on it. I should probably text him about that. But yeah.
Yeah, most likely it's that one. That was it was an nth motor build.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, if it's the same car I'm thinking of.
Let's take a look at it again. But nonetheless, super cool, dude.
Yeah.
The Superleggeros are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like once you step inside of one, you understand. Like this is so nice. Like the carbon and the Alcantara. Like, I mean, I don't know about you fitting in that car very well. It's kind of like a little bit for short Italians.
It's a tough one. Like Ryan Wheeler, he had carbon buckets in his Gallardo.
That makes a huge difference, by the way.
I still struggled to get out of it.
Yep.
It was.
You hit
I
steering
rolled
wheel?
out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to roll out. So I think it was 4 years ago. I think this was like just before the pandemic started. I was doing car reviews as Borat.
Oh, nice.
And there's a handful of videos that went viral, and then I stopped doing it because winter came and I wasn't really able to get access to cars. But like, there's like videos of me rolling out of the Gallardo, a Huracan, like I gotta find those videos, man.
Yeah.
They're so
There's
good.
like a process of stepping in and out of those cars.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do it right.
Yeah. And in that instance, like given for the video, I didn't care about looking like an idiot. But imagine I pulled up to like a car show or whatever. It's like, I have to roll out on my back. Like there's a video of the guy in a Ford GT rolling out.
Yeah.
What is it about the Pagani that you want for a track car? Why that one?
Man, it's just a raw car. Again, it's just, I mean, even though it is paddle shifted, it's still a Mercedes-Benz motor, V12, which is the same, technically same platform as the SL that I had. And I don't know, I just like the rawness of it, and just the everything mechanical about it just makes sense to me.
What did you see when you went to the factory? Any particular Paganis? Like
Everything.
How long ago did you go?
I want to say 2 years ago.
2 years ago? Oh wow, okay. So you were probably seeing like the new Utopia and everything.
I saw that, and then I saw they actually had all the race cars, the high wire R's, there for service. So I got to see like everything that was like race car oriented. It was really cool.
And they don't let you take photos on that one, do they?
No, they take your phones. You put it in a locker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but just the whole process, and it's so cool, man. Like, think of like, I don't know, it's like you walk in the shop, it doesn't feel like a shop. It's set up as a city.
Like an Apple store.
No, because Apple Store feels very fake.
Yeah.
This is more like there's like a big grand like clock, and then there's like plants and stuff, and like it just feels very relaxed, and just how everything is just
That's
just
so uniquely
properly
Italian.
Yeah, just properly, sectioned. Like you got your carbon builds happening here, CNC machinery, engines, paint and body. Like it was very well sanctioned without being a factory. I don't know how can you even say that?
Yeah,
It felt like something you want to go to work to, probably.
Oh yeah.
It feels more hand built.
Yes.
Right?
The craft is there.
Yeah.
It's not like the people are there are just like, we can just replace you. Like, no. Like you're a big asset to the company. And I feel like that's the way Orazio Pagani like put this thing together.
I bet they have an espresso shop in there. They had to have.
I see people drinking coffee. So, I mean, it's Italy. You take your afternoon break, which is like 2 hours. Everything's shut down, and then you just go home and spend time with your family and come back to work.
Because I think it's Mexico, right? They have siesta, or am I thinking it was Spain.
Yeah.
So it's kind of something like that, like where you have like a dedicated hour, like go nap or something. Dude.
Yeah. It was definitely different for me because I'm like wide awake. I'm like, I need some coffee. I'm like, wait, everything's closed.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a different culture over there. Like when my dad and my brother went over to Europe, like last year, to go, back to Bosnia, and it's like it's just different. Like it's not like go like it is here in the States,
Yeah. A lot of family time.
Yeah.
Like that's priority, which is nice. It gives you a good foundation for your future, So
yeah, it's really cool. Any final things that we should touch on before I think we kind of covered a lot of things.
Yeah, we did.
This is super fun.
Hopefully I helped out on your questions.
Someone's got their questions answered. Where can people find you? Is it all referral based, or do you have somewhere where people can reach out or anything like that?
Social media, so Facebook and Instagram. And that's it.
Is it 87?
LLC, yeah. So it's 87 LLC with the 8 and the 7 being the first letters. It's kind of confusing. I chose that, and I was like, man, that's gonna be confusing. I'm like, nah, just go with it.
It looks good when you look at it, but I
Yeah.
get like trying to explain to somebody probably would be difficult.
Yeah, but I'll just leave it and be like, people will figure it out.
Perfect. And then Dan?
You can find us at Gunna Garage with 2 N's.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
All right. And then if you guys are this far into the episode, you kind of know where you're at this point. Well, Antonio, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Dan, thanks for existing, and we'll see y'all next time.
Yeah.